We've got a packed night of playoff action. 4 games in the NHL. Toronto, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton can all advance with a win tonight at 7. Ottawa hosts the Maple Leafs. 7:30 sees Las Vegas in Minnesota. Dallas is in Colorado at 9:30, and then the night's going to wrap up at 10 with the Kings in Edmonton versus the Oilers. We also have some AHL playoff action. The Rochester Americans are in Syracuse tonight. They're looking to close out their series as they take on the Crunch at 7. Paul Hamilton has more up on this series up at our website, WGR550.com. Lighter night overall for the NBA. Just 2 games. The Knicks and the Nuggets can advance with a win. New York is on the road versus the Pistons at 7:30. Then at 10, it's the Clippers that host the Denver Nuggets. The Bisons are in action. They're in Iowa. They lead the Cubs 7-0 in the 5th. You can listen to the rest of that game over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Mets are also in action. They are down 2-0 to Arizona in the 6th. And then later tonight, it's the Jays that host Boston just after 7. And looking ahead to tomorrow, the Buffalo Bandits take on the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL semifinal on Friday, 7:30 at KeyBank Center. Pregame right here on WGR will begin at 7 p.m., and the first 10,000 fans will receive a playoff rally towel. Get your tickets now at bandits.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Raisin Bran. You got to put Raisin Bran up there. Everybody knows it.
It's Mike Schopp.
Listen, get your own stupid old dying person team and choose your own cereals.
And the Bulldog.
I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves.
That cereal is soggy. You reach into the fridge for the milk and open the lid on the milk to pour it in there, and that crap is already soggy.
I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds.
That's a problem for a cereal.
I huge
think.
problem.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Let's get the update. How many different cereals do you have right now in your house? Do you still have that berry crunch nut oat concoction from Canada?
Triple berry oatmeal crunch. No, we do not have.
You're out of that?
I blew through the last stash of
Colon Blow
that we got. I don't have any Colon Blow, although I did have. I don't even know what it was. The name of the cereal was just like what's in it. It was like maple flakes and chunks of oats and something else, some store brand something or other that I had a nice frozen bowl of last night.
I have the cranberry maple flakes and oats and
right.
chunks.
That is currently the only cereal that's in the house.
Okay.
So yeah, we're down. We're down bad.
I think I have like 4.
Yeah, we're hurting.
Life, Cinnamon Life, Corn Flakes, which I bought because I wanted for a
recipe
potatoes recipe,
yeah.
And of course Cheerios. That's always there. Very plain Jane kind of cereal house I live in. Yeah. Nothing, no cartoon characters have ever appeared on a box of cereal in my house. No Count anybody.
I respect that.
No Franken anybody. Yeah. Just it's all very muted.
No Cinnamon Toast Crunches or nothing.
We have had that, I think, but I don't know what happened. My wife probably just got drunk and bought that. I don't know what happened. She would not normally get drunk or buy that. So something weird happened there. I don't know the story. She got talked into it. It is May 1st. Schedule month.
Oh, yeah, we're there.
Schedule month. You got to love it. I mean, of course, you've been talking about it in your workplace all day. It is 2 weeks from yesterday, May 14th, is the schedule. I wanted to play a thing out with you.
Okay.
By the way, I have started a new worksheet.
Oh, good for you.
The last one went badly, so here's the latest on my. I love the schedule. I like to try to guess at it, see what happens, see what makes sense.
Please show everyone on the Twitch.
Here it is.
Wow, that's
this is what you call a blank slate.
Yeah, that's what that looks like. Yeah.
I have written one game down on below.
Is there room to skip lines, or do you not have room for?
No.
No. Okay.
No. I would never skip lines.
That just looks too smushed together to me.
Well, there's no room. There's not enough.
There's not
17 more lines.
There's not 34. Okay.
No, I would hate it.
Yeah.
I would hate that.
All right.
I did want to have some fun with where we want the 6 division games. I am excited about, or I love the idea of Bills at Patriots this year. If I were the guy putting the schedule together, which would be the ultimate job in the world, if I had the job of writing the schedule, this would be an interesting game to me. I'd want it to be the game in New England because the Bills are the better team to make for like a closer looking matchup. If I were the guy in that job, I'd want to know, and I think this is the kind of thing maybe that you would know if you had the kind of that kind of authority, what the timetable is for Stephon Diggs. Is he week 1? Is he not? Because if he's week 1, I love it early. Like, I even like it week 1 if he's on the field. But if I knew he wasn't going to be on the field, I would want to push it off or just not worry about it. But because he's an integral piece to the idea is Diggs. I mean, he's played against the Bills with Houston since, but I like the Patriots with Vrabel, with May, with Diggs, and they've drafted a couple other skill position guys, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams.
It's funny, I did not, when you brought them up, I started thinking, yeah, that fits. Like they could be the second best team in the division if it goes right. Like and maybe, who knows, maybe they could surprise. So like a late season game there with them, I don't know if they're contending for the division. It might depend on, obviously it depends on how both seasons are going. But they could be contending for a playoff spot. Maybe it's important in the division race. But I didn't even think about Diggs. Like, it didn't even click to me. I'm just mostly thinking about them arcing up the rest of the division. Like, I'm a little worried about Miami right now. I think the Jets are...
Worried about Miami for Miami's sake.
Yeah, right. Thank you for clarifying, because I've been pretty bullish on them for a few years here, and I think they might be going the wrong way now. And the Jets, like I like what they like Aaron Glenn, like good start over, but they're not getting anywhere this year with Justin Fields as their quarterback. I don't think so. New England, I think could. I mean, anything could. I think they should pass them, both of them. So they're the second best team. That makes it possible that game is important. If for nothing else, maybe New England's just playoff hopes, if not the division. I like the
idea.
A late season game makes sense to me for them, and I don't want to say that guarantees Diggs will be there, but there's a better chance of him not being ready for week 1 than there is him not being ready for week 13 or something. I would think, but that doesn't have to be right. Right.
If you remember 2 years ago where they put the Bills at the Jets week 1 at night, I know you remember, Rodgers, and let's see what that is against the team that has won the division, I guess 3 years in a row? Let's test it. Mm-hmm. And even though you lost Rodgers, you got a good game, an overtime game, and the Jets won it. This is that to me. Let's see what New England is. And I think, the fact that it's New York versus New England doesn't really matter to me. I'd want to put the Bills there, in a primetime spot. If I had Diggs, I'd want it. I'd nominate it for week 1 Monday night, or just week 2, 3, whatever you need to do here. That would be one preference for me. That just from a league standpoint, I think that's a pretty good looking. You're putting a team that won how many games on prime time? 4, the Patriots. But with the upgrades, with Vrabel at home, I've already said it. So I like that early. And then I would like the second Patriots game somewhere in the middle, because I think I want the Jets or the Dolphins to be the finale with the stadium in mind. I don't know why that's different from New England, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I really follow the motivation there. Did we figure out that what was the first regular season game in the stadium? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Was it the Jets?
Yes. 73.
Right. So from a synergy standpoint, that's even in my brain, that's symmetrical. So things like that usually appeal to me. I think I made the same point whenever we talked about this, whenever that was, that I would nominate the Jets. For that reason alone.
Week 18?
Week 18. They would outweigh the Patriots for a finale simply because they were the first regular season opponent the Bills faced in a stadium that they are now going to be closing. So give me that Week 18. Jets here. I don't need 1 o'clock Sunday is fine. I mean, I doubt that game would rate as a later game for playoff purposes, that they're saving or something. It's very unlikely.
Let's hope not.
So that would be my choice.
Want me to write that in?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's your sheet. I'm not prepared to make one.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not going to make your own?
No.
You don't want to compete with mine?
No.
I'm writing that in. I like that too. Whether it's the synergy or not. I mean, you're going to play a division opponent that week. Doesn't have to be a home game. I like it as a home game. Hopefully for the Bills' sake, there's playoffs, but that you sort of get to celebrate the end of the stadium at home, to cap the season. So I like that. What do you want to do with the Patriots then? You're with me on the road early?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, sure. Because, honestly, I didn't even need the Diggs part of it. I mean, that does make it juicier, obviously. But like you said, that's not as intriguing, interesting, because he played against them last year already. So that doesn't have as much. It's still got juice, all right? I mean, it adds to a regular season matchup. I don't know that I really need nighttime for that. I mean, New England will probably get some love in that way, and Monday is not the marquee night. So I mean, I guess I'm not against it, but it's to me, the Bills have enough other, and all of their marquee opponents, especially the ones here, are not going to be nighttime games. Maybe there'll be a 4:25 or 2 mixed in there. You get that prime window afternoon doubleheader thing. But I don't know that I need it to be a night game. But early in the year, fine.
Okay.
Actually, when you started talking, though, my thought was, if they are the second...
Get me out of here? Was that your thought?
Definitely not.
When's my flight?
If they are the second best, I checked in. The second best team in the division, and the Bills are, quote unquote, at least when the schedule gets made, the better team, then I might like that game in December in New England. Because it could be important for both teams. Bills for seeding, for the division, New England to make the playoffs. Maybe they're challenging for the division. I don't know how well you can expect their year to go and how badly you could expect the Bills' year to go. But still, you surprised me when you said week 1 or early nighttime. I could work with closing my season at New England week 17 and at home for the Jets week 18. That would work for me.
Well, we disagree there. I really like Bills at Patriots early prime time. We had Bills at Dolphins last year, week 2 on a Thursday night. Then it was week 3, Patriots at Jets on that Thursday night. That doesn't have to mean anything to this year, of course. What about Miami? What's that? Or is prime time NFL maybe done with Buffalo at Miami? You want to take a year off? Can we take a year off from the Bills and Dolphins playing a night game?
I think that would be advisable.
I think it's time. Take some time apart.
I wonder if the league views them as a descending asset.
Miami?
At this point. Yeah.
Get them on early because that's when they're good.
Maybe I like the idea of trading New England for Miami in that way. That trip's a primetime wire for me, because what I'm saying here is I think New England is going to displace Miami as the second best team in the division, so maybe that rates as a night game. Like you said initially, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but now you brought up Miami and that they played at night. Yeah, I don't need to see Bills Miami in primetime.
No, I don't either.
No, either game, the game here either. I don't. It's
play them. I mean, play them in the afternoon. You don't have to play them in the morning.
No,
they're not that bad.
No, I'm not saying that.
Still Josh Allen.
Yeah.
All right, so anywhere for the Dolphins?
Kinda, yeah.
Since I like Patriots away early, I'll like Patriots home mid to late, and I guess I want the Dolphin road game to be in between the Patriots and the Jets home games. So it's not just like 3 away, 3 home.
Yeah.
I made that mistake last time. One of the things that I wrote it all in, and I didn't like that about my schedule last time.
Maybe take special care to not separate the games by too many weeks, because we saw like last year the Bills didn't play. Was it New England that they didn't play until very late? Both games were
2 years ago.
2 years ago that was.
Right?
I'm trying to remember. I felt like there was something
Was it last year?
like that last year too. That the games just came. Both New England games. New England December 22nd here, and then they closed.
Yep.
Yeah, they closed there on January 5th.
2 weeks apart. That's right.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah, so
I don't want that.
I don't want it, but apparently the league doesn't seem to care that much about it. So if you're trying to put a schedule together that might actually be what they do, maybe keep that in mind.
What do you like for week 1?
Week 1.
I'm open to at New England week 1, prime time or not, but I can wait. I want to know Diggs. They're not going to know Diggs maybe before
May 14th. They might not. So if that matters a lot, and I get why it would, you might want to table that.
Did you hear about the thing that happened on Monday?
A lot of things happened on Monday.
Where the Bills general manager went on local radio and talked about like wide receiver, we're good.
I did. You know what? I hadn't heard a lot about it until this morning as I was walking off the 18th hole at Delaware Park. Someone who plays there recognized me and said something about like no more wide receiver talking. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he explained everything to me. So now I'm up to speed, I think.
Definitely don't talk about the thing everybody's talking about that happened in your building. Was his message? That's a guy who knows what's up.
That was what he wanted to get across to me. Yes.
That's a guy who knows what's up.
I said, it's never going to stop, is what I said.
You say that to me, I'm doing it no matter what. I wasn't going to, but I am now, buddy. Week 1. Do you like home, away?
I always like
last year at the stadium.
I always like week 1 at home, and it. I wonder if it being the last year in the stadium carries some. It's your last home opener. I mean, you're going to have a home opener no matter what. If you play on week 1 and week 2, even on the road, you're going to have a home opener. But for the first game of the season, I feel like I want that to be a home game. It's your last time, right? So it's your last chance to have the first game of the year be the opener at home opener. That I hope the league respects that. It's obviously sentimentality, and they might just bulldoze that over. But I like home, and I would suspect that they would sort of respect that when making the schedule.
Is it that important? What's more important, to open at home or close when it's the last year of the stadium? I think close.
I think close is more important, but everything is going to be the last time.
The last everything, yeah.
So
the last everything.
I would like to have one last opening day be at home, if that makes sense. I know they would have eventually you will have a home opener, even if it's put off for a week or two. But
yep.
I like the idea of the season is starting. We've had the one game. I even like this for a 1:00 Sunday, just to sort of be a part of that's the most frequent game time we've had over the years. For a while, it was all we ever had. We had nothing.
I'll tell you what. I love a 4:00. Now it's 4:25 usually. Week 1 home game. 1991, Miami. Off the Super Bowl 25 season. Great rival. Played in the playoffs the year before. Enberg, are these familiar things? The number 1991, Enberg. It'll be on the podcast. It'll all be explained. 4:00, just like the weather and the light. The late September.
The light is pretty cool if it's the right kind of day. Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
you could take a Bengals game and do that. It'd have to be a good game, like a good opponent.
For it to be four.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not putting New Orleans
right
at Buffalo at 4:25 on week 1.
Right.
They have the extra home game too. Because if you pack in a couple of road games, it'll look like all the rest of the games are at home.
I really don't mind if I get week 1 for me, my preference. Week 1, 1:00 home. I don't need it to be somebody really great. If you want to jam me up with Tampa or New Orleans, the gift I'm getting is that I'm doing this for the opener one more time. And so I'm not saying I want you to set me up with a patsy necessarily, but I don't need it to be, Baltimore or Philadelphia or any of the marquee teams they're playing. I think the home opener sells itself. I mean, all these games sell themselves anyway. It's not like they're going to have trouble moving tickets for these games or anything, but just as an attraction, I think almost every game is attractive this year, regardless of the opponent, because of the stadium.
Well, this is really going too far, but they have 9 home games, 7, including the division, which are good for nostalgia and rivalry stuff, are up here, and then New Orleans and Tampa Bay are down here. New Orleans and Tampa Bay, I mean, they're NFL teams, although not everybody could name them. We discussed this the other day. Not everybody could remember the names of the teams I just mentioned, New Orleans and Tampa Bay. But they're kind of like just so unappealing to me. Tampa Bay's probably actually good.
Yeah.
But there's almost no history. Just did it with Arizona last year. I don't think I want that. And I don't think I want the division at home in week 1 because I want to end with it. And the other games are all too good. It's the 3 division games. It's the Saints and the Bucks. And then it's Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Philadelphia. And I don't think you're Philadelphia can't be in week 1. They're going to have Thursday night. Right. No way is it the Chiefs.
Nope.
If it's the Ravens, it's at night, and I doubt it. And then Cincinnati, I doubt that's a night game. It's just almost even the Bengals feel too strong. 425. I'd listen to that. Then what am I left with? I'm left with the Bucks, the Saints, and the road games.
Right. The division games, you mean? Yeah.
No, the road games. Like
I'm sorry.
Playing on the road.
Right, of course.
For home, yes. Sorry. The Bucks, the Saints, and the division games.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't love it. Now, you don't make the schedule by one team. Not everybody gets all their preferences. But for me, if I'm trying to sort of map it out, I feel like week 1's away.
Yeah, that might end up being right, of course. I wonder, like, how much, Sal mentioned something to us last week about how Pittsburgh, right? Maybe it was just this week because it was after the draft. How Mark Murphy said something about how Pittsburgh may protect their Green Bay game, right? So if teams do get the opportunity to, like, maybe you get an email from Mike North or someone, somebody in his orbit that says, like, hey, Brandon Beane or Pete Coelho, whomever. Do you have any preferences for your schedule? Like, are there any things you'd like? And you can make a list, and when you submit the list that it may be completely ignored, but you're going to get a chance at least to say, these are things that we would like. And with the last year of the stadium, I don't know if any of the people I mentioned or it's someone else that would be making this call would be like-minded like me, but I feel like opening at home would be on that list for, like, it's our last year and we want to close. And so if it can be facilitated, then maybe the league would try to make that happen for you. But I have no idea if that would be the Bills' preference. It just happens to be mine.
Miami, then.
That would work fine. Like I've already said, it doesn't matter to me who it is. Like, I would settle for the Saints or the Bucks. I don't need it to be somebody that I really care about emotionally.
Oh, get it up in the locker room. Get it on the bulletin board. I would settle for the Saints or the Bucks.
Right.
Bulldog. You hear that, guys? They're giving us no chance. This is the Saints locker room, the Saints bulletin board now.
Yeah.
They're giving us no chance up there. And the players are probably like, yeah, it seems right. You ever watch them play?
I'm inclined to agree.
You seen our roster?
Yeah. Right.
All right, well, with the schedule, of course, it's all just total guesswork, even more so than the draft is. But it's fun. What do you want? Last year of the stadium. Are we done with the draft? Not necessarily. More talk about what they did, what they didn't do. Tyler Dunn spent an hour with Brandon Beane. Man, Brandon Beane, maybe I shouldn't have been kidding about The View. I think he would do it.
Yeah.
I think he would go on The View right now. He's just, what do you want?
He's out there.
Tyler wrote that their time was up and being rescheduled his next meeting to keep talking. He really wants to be out there right now.
Yes, it seems that way.
Not that that's bad. I don't think it's bad. It's interesting, maybe.
Right. But Tyler's not coming today.
Tyler's on tomorrow.
He'll be on tomorrow.
Yeah, the article's out today.
Yes. Right.
And I bring it up because there were a couple of interesting things that Beane said on the heels of what happened on Monday that I think would be good to bring up. Mike Giardi today, Boston Sports Journal. He'll join us at 4. We're hoping to get Paul on too. The Amherst are in Syracuse, hoping to close out a sweep in their series. Devin Levi has been great. Kulik also, especially I guess in Game 2. And so we'll probably talk to Paul. Looks like 6 o'clock for that, right before the Amherst game in Syracuse. 803-0550. We know a lot of you have been listening the last few days. What hasn't been said? Let us know. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
I think there is some good football left in there, but there was way more forgettable games than there was memorable games. I referenced that Denver game where Jerry Jeudy played much better than he did in that game. But like, you get like 2 or 3 games a year with Elijah Moore where you're like, that's the talent, that's where it is. And outside of that, it's just a lot of just mediocre to even some games where he just was a complete non-factor.
Let's talk about this. Jonathan Peterlin, 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, visiting with Sal today on the Extra Point Show. Midway or little after, through yesterday's show, the Bills, it came out, we're signing wide receiver Elijah Moore, late of the Browns, drafted in 2021 by the Jets, pick 34 overall, pretty good, but has not really put much of a career together. Only 25, was a pretty exciting prospect coming into the league, but then it becomes either, well, what chance did he have to produce with the quarterbacks he's played with and the teams versus, yeah, but Garrett Wilson did it. I mean, other guys do it. Judy.
What's his problem? Yeah.
Other guys do it. So what does this signing mean? It's above a couple of the moves they made last year.
I definitely think that's right. I put it ahead. I mean, the money could tell you, although it could just be inflation in the case of like Valdez-Scantling. It's close to that, and we don't know what all the details on this. Up to 5 point something, I think, is all we know at this point. So I don't know what he's got coming, how much guarantee, if any, etc. But I feel like it's more than the flyer they threw on Chase Claypool or even MVS. But it doesn't rate much more. It's a friend of mine texted me last night after we got done at home, said, "Is this Moore guy any good?" And I said, it's worth it. I'm happy they did it. I'm definitely not upset that they did it. I'm glad they did it. But he's probably just a guy. Like and my friend said back to me, "Cool, that's our specialty." Right? That's what we've got. We've got a room full of guys who are just guys. That's
not entirely a joke.
No, I know.
I mean,
I know.
The Bills would kind of have to own that.
Yeah. And look, that worked well enough. I mean, they did do all the things that Brandon Beane was boasting about on the radio on Monday and in further media appearances, like talking to Tyler Dunn, like you said, and whatever else he's done. I don't know if he's made the View yet, but nonetheless, they made that work. So, to me, it's definitely worth trying. I never want to stop adding. So, I think if you're in the camp of I want more there, I don't think you have enough there, and they sign a guy, however checkered, and this guy's career is not as checkered as even Claypool's is. I mean, he's continued to produce, albeit at a very medium level, but it's not, to me, like a guy that is absolutely on the scrap heap at this point.
No.
So
Claypool almost it wasn't that he did a lot, but he did as a rookie. He
smashed
big.
Yes,
and by last year he was out of the league.
And Moore doesn't have that. He doesn't have that one year where you could go, boy, if I could just unlock that.
He does not.
He does not have that. So I like it. What ends up happening? Like if I had to predict right now, it probably is not much of a needle mover at all, but it could be. And so, all it takes is a play or two to make you go, oh, good. Oh, look, they got that guy. Look at that guy.
It's not just like you just go and get as many guys as you can because the money just doesn't matter. Ultimately, the money does matter. And it's up to $5 million. Maybe it really won't seem like much, but it's a real investment in Palmer. I mean, you sort of push back on it's a lot of money, but it's 11. And Samuel, what is Samuel? 6 or 8, whatever he is.
In that range. I think the cap number is like 9, so I don't know.
Shakir is 15 now. Like, they've put decent dollars.
It will be. It's not this year. His cap number is still really low.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, they made a commitment there. But, the reason I push back on it is, and Beane said that again in the interview that he did with Tyler that we've already referenced a couple times, is I did read that this morning. He's talking about this big commitment he's made to Palmer. And I'm sorry, on the scale of commitments in the NFL for receivers, $11 million is not really that much. Maybe it's the middle.
Well, you wouldn't want to pay $11 million to a guy that doesn't play.
No, definitely not.
And
I know he's going to play, and they've got plans for him, but it's just not. I don't know. It's not a flag I would fly. Like, look at our commitment.
Okay.
Because it looks like you did the best you could with what the market was. You weren't prepared, to go pay $35 for somebody, and that's fine. Like, I'm not arguing. As much as we get, intrigued by the idea of trading for that DK Metcalf or whomever, I understand that there are things in the way of doing that, but it just isn't, to me, like, look what I did. It's sort of, hey, I did a thing. Is more how I would put it. And I don't know, maybe that pisses him off that anyone would phrase it that way, but whatever, that's how I look at it.
Beane, so it's just more, I don't want to say necessarily that it's damage control, but, he's done a few different shows. He spends his time with Tyler Dunn. Good. He did say that he thought last year it was totally fair and reasonable to question what they were doing at wide receiver. He said that to Go Long TD. Like, last year, have at it.
He said that to Jared, too, on Monday.
Okay, good. We traded Diggs. We lost Davis. Yep. It's Mac Hollins. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Last year, he thought the questions were fair. And this year, he just doesn't. Don't say I haven't done anything. Signing Palmer is a thing. And he talked about it to Tyler like he thought it was a pretty big deal.
Yep.
Whether it rates highly enough for you financially or not. I think Palmer is important to Brandon Beane.
I think that's very clear, yes.
So, Coleman, Kincaid. He was interesting about Kincaid in the article, and he sort of criticized himself for not being clearer at the end of the season about what he wanted from Kincaid publicly. Like, just stronger, getting off your man at the point of attack, or at the point of attack, but at the snap, right? Being able to muscle through your guy there.
I feel like he used the phrasing "armor yourself" a couple times.
Okay, so that's what he was more specific, and he said he wished that at the press conference he had made more of a deal about Kincaid being hurt, like that he played through a knee injury, and wanted to give him credit for that. He felt like the way he put it after the season that he didn't really make enough about that. So all of that, this year he doesn't want to hear it. Last year he said it was okay. This year it's not okay to question their commitment. It's always two things, commitment and results. And he also, one more point, at the risk of driving everybody crazy about it again, he referred back to actually both of the Carolina teams when he worked there that went to the Super Bowl, 2003 and then 2015. And in 2015, he showed to Tyler Ted Ginn, Jericho Cotchery, Philly Brown, and a rookie Devin Funchess were their four receivers. They led the league in points, 31.2 points per game. He's basically, he isn't directly saying this, although McDermott has. When McDermott used to say, I know what it looks like, before it actually showed up, he would be like, I know what it looks like. You got to trust me here. And, if you did, good for you, because it manifested. And that's kind of how Beane was talking again in this article today. I don't know when the interview was, maybe even yesterday, but it doesn't mention Elijah Moore, I think. So I want to assume, I should ask Tyler, that this was all before they made that official.
I think that's right. Sometime between Monday morning and yesterday afternoon, I think, is what the timing looks like. Because I agree. I don't think I saw anything in there about Elijah Moore.
Here's Mike with us. Hello, Mike.
How you doing, guys?
Good.
Well, first off, the thing you just mentioned, I was going to mention about the two Carolina teams that he mentioned in the article. I mean, those teams didn't win, though. They got there. They didn't win nothing, though. So I know he's wrestled with that. But anyways, my original point about calling, he keeps talking about last year and we scored 30 points with the same kind of team or whatever. Is he not aware that defensive coordinators in the league get paid to stop that in the offseason? They're going to get their pins out, and it's not going to be the same as probably as it was last year. He keeps resting on that. Like, the 31 other teams aren't going to, be in the lab, too,
Yeah. Well, good luck to them. Bill's offense has been good to great for 5 years in a row, starting with Allen. So Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, good luck to the defensive coordinators in those situations. it's pretty harsh to say Carolina didn't win. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl farther than this Bills team has gone, so give them that. What he was saying about the 15 Panthers, and also 2003, was that this blueprint that you just saw in this draft, defensive line, pressure up the middle, is what those teams were great at. And no, we weren't, I'm paraphrasing, we weren't always great. He wasn't even that flattering on Newton in the comments to Tyler. It's like, he won the MVP, sort of felt like he might have had that voice on when he was talking about Newton. But it was that they wrecked you on the defensive line. Really, both lines, he was saying. But that's clearly, do we need to hear him say it? That's clearly where he wants this team to be stronger. And the offensive line is already good, so this draft didn't really require any work on that front, but defensive line absolutely did. What they did, what he said over and over now, lines up. This is how we want to win. Get Mahomes to the ground. We haven't been able to do it. That's actually pretty close to an actual quote. We haven't been able to do it. We need to do it to win.
The one piece that I think is still sort of missing, and it really depends on, and I guess for Beane, the way he talked about Palmer in the article to Tyler, because I don't know how much Palmer came up specifically on Monday when he was running so hot with Jeremy and Joe. But I've been over here, now they've added a second guy. 2 guys out, only 1 guy came in, right? Holland's left. Cooper has not been re-signed. He's still out there and available, but I can't imagine that's in the wind in any way. But they did pivot to getting a guy whose resume far outclasses any of the guys that are on this team currently, and certainly outclasses Palmer's contract. But what they actually ended up getting out of Cooper, maybe he feels like it's fair to expect they will get that out of Palmer. And that, so I can't be so hard on that, because again, the money is a part of that. So because I felt like, great, you went and got a guy that is somewhere in between Hollins and Cooper on the spectrum, right? And you probably can't get much further than that financially, and who was available. And maybe considering what impact Cooper had, I mean, certainly statistically, you're going to hope that Palmer does better than that even. But his resume, route running, getting open, separation, those things could give you what Cooper gave them. And maybe that has to suffice. And now that Moore's here, they've got the one more guy that they were missing. And so, I might look at it now as though the cupboard is reasonably full. It really depends on how bullish you want to be about Palmer.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Getting connected with the fans brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop online at northtownkia.com. Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal, coming up in 20 minutes. Paul Hamilton at 6. The Amherst try to close out their first playoff series of the postseason tonight in Syracuse. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR. After 4, always a great conversation. Schedule's coming together.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it is. It's time for a night game.
Show the kids on Twitch. What do you got so far?
Well, let me ask you this first.
Okay.
Who do I want for a Sunday night home game in Week 6?
Sunday night.
I've already used Cincinnati.
Home game Week 6.
Not in prime time. Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Not Philadelphia?
No, I like the Eagles later in the year for some reason. I'm not really sure I can tell you why. It just feels like an NFC. Could be like Fox wants the 425 window for that game.
Like Dallas was?
Yeah. So that I just feel like that gets pushed further down the road.
Is Brady going to be doing games again?
I haven't heard that he was resigned or let go.
No, I haven't either.
There is the ownership part of that.
They're still going ahead with that?
Seems like they don't care. So, yeah, I'm assuming he's going to be doing games.
All right. You like Baltimore there?
Yeah, I guess I would say I like Baltimore there. Yeah.
Philadelphia at Buffalo. Dallas at Buffalo 2 years ago now was a late season 4 o'clock game, 4:25. Mm-hmm. San Francisco was this game last year, and that was a Sunday night game.
Right.
I think I like the Eagles more. I know you're doing your own.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
All right, we'll keep working.
No peeking. Yeah, that Dallas game was Week 15.
Yes, the James Cook game.
Right.
Would you call it that? Have there been other James Cook games? So he's too sort of a regular to have a game? Like there's no Josh Allen game.
Right.
Because they're all Josh Allen games.
I mean, it is a game where they blew out their opponent.
Allen completed 7 passes.
And Allen threw for 94 yards. Mm-hmm. Cook ran for 179 in the game. I guess that might be as close to a James Cook game as we'd have, and it's prior to last year where he sort of really blasted off and became, I mean, he had 1,000 yards in 23, but he was not thought of the way that he is now after 16 regular season touchdowns last year, rushing touchdowns.
Remember, and I don't expect you to, I'd be flattered if you did, last year when the schedule came out and then once they put the lines up for every game, I bet multiple units on the Bills to beat San Francisco because there's just no way San Francisco is coming here on a Sunday night. They were in Green Bay the week before, if I remember right. Like, forget it. No. Betting football is so hard. But sometimes, I'm sure there are times when you feel just as confident and you're wrong. Right, but the Dallas game the year before, I was the same way. Like, there's no way Dallas is coming to Buffalo in December. It's going to be so dark and cold. They're going to want to quit. And they totally did. Like, it was the worst game of the year. Dallas just had no interest in playing that day. San Francisco didn't lie down. They just fumbled at the 5-yard line a few times.
And they were banged up coming in to begin with. They just were not having a year. Dallas was not. Like, they weren't wheezing coming into the game like San Francisco maybe was.
No, but I made the prediction like months out.
Yeah.
This is just going to be bad. I don't think I feel that way about the Eagles.
No, I don't either. No,
I'm not expecting the Eagles-Bills game to just be a walkover.
Considering that they won in Philly in like a sideways rainstorm 2 years ago, I don't think the weather. I'm not going to worry about them with the weather. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not already lining up to bet the Bills to cover against Philadelphia and whenever that is. May 14th for the schedule. I saw a 2026 mock draft today. I will tell you about that later. I want to give you time to prepare.
Okay.
I'll tell you about that later.
Did it include Arch Manning?
I think 101.
Yeah. Is that I feel like
the Bills did not take him in this particular mock draft.
I've seen already, I mean, it's so early for this, but plenty of people referencing Peyton and Eli's careers and saying, like, he's played 9 games. He's not going to just start for Texas this year and come out. He's probably going to play, he'll be there a third year. And I think there's a lot of merit to that, but that also ignores, like, if he smashes and looks like halfway through the year like he's going to be the 101, then maybe, yeah, you know what? Okay, 17 games was enough. I'm out. But
that's what happens.
Right. But I don't know. I'm not assuming he's going to be a part of the class at this point, I guess.
He goes to the Browns with the first overall pick in 2026, and they, I'm not sure, they don't have to play the Bills. If they finish last, I guess they wouldn't. Trying to think of a scenario where he is the starter, like to Sal's thing about the quarterbacks that have made their debuts against the Bills.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be next. Don't know yet. Mike Giardi next. Thanks for being with us. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
We'll start in the NHL. 4 games this evening. Toronto, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton can all advance with a win. At 7, Ottawa hosts the Maple Leafs. 7:30, Las Vegas is in Minnesota versus the Wild. Dallas is in Colorado at 9:30, and then the night will wrap up at 10 with the Kings in Edmonton versus the Oilers. We also have AHL playoff action. The Rochester Americans are in Syracuse tonight, looking to close out their series when they take on the Crunch at 7. Paul Hamilton has more on that series up at our website, WGR550.com. And Paul will also be joining the show at 6 o'clock, so do stay tuned for that. Lighter night for the NBA, just 2 games. The Knicks and the Nuggets can advance with a win. New York is on the road versus the Pistons. And at 7:30, then at 10, it's the Clippers. They host the Denver Nuggets. The Bisons are in action this afternoon. They're in Iowa. They lead the Cubs 8-1 in the 8th. You can listen to the remainder of that game over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. Mets also in action. They are currently down 4-2 to Arizona in the 9th. And then later tonight, the Blue Jays host the Boston Red Sox just after 7. And looking ahead to tomorrow, the Buffalo Bandits take on the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL semifinals. Again, this Friday, 7:30 at KeyBank Center. Pregame on WGR will begin at 7. And the first 10,000 fans will receive a playoff rally towel. Get your tickets now at bandits.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I got a speeding ticket in the mail yesterday.
In the mail?
Yeah. I think I'm going to just ignore it.
It's Mike Schopp
Where was this?
Spain.
and the Bulldog.
I think if I just lay low, I think I'll get away with it.
Not mention it on the air?
Definitely don't want to talk about it on the air.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog
I like the sound of this more and more as we go. I'm an outlaw.
on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Just reading a post about Belichick. Who's worse? Who's like really never going to leave our lives? Belichick or Brady? Who is really never going away?
Wow.
They're both just
Yeah.
insistent on it. What about Bob? You open the door. He's never gone. He's still standing right there at the door. He knows you're going to open it and let him in and have him sit down at your table and have mashed potatoes and gravy. You know that's coming. Mike Giardi, I don't know. Boston Sports Journal. Mike, maybe you thought, I'm looking forward to the day Belichick, who was always hostile with the media, not always, but, his reputation.
Yeah, mostly always.
Mostly hostile. I'm looking forward to sort of moving on, moving away.
Maybe
moving away.
The only times he wasn't hostile is if someone framed just the exact right question about the development of special teams coaches or something, and then he would give you 18 minutes on just that, and then everyone else in the room would be like hating the guy that asked that question or girl. Right? Did I have that right, Mike?
Yeah, nobody loved the filibuster more than Belichick. Like he would know that when they send out the transcript, you kind of want so many words in there, so there'd be like 7 straight answers that were like 1 sentence long, and then somebody would give him that gift. And yes, whoever that somebody was always got the dirty looks, and then he would go for 4.5 minutes on that. So then when you look at the transcript, man, he talked a lot today. No, he just talked about left-footed punters against the wind in December. Like that's what he did, and the person who asked that question can rot, and he can also rot for doing us like that. So yeah, no, I was hoping, like you guys are saying, I was hoping that time spent talking about Bill Belichick would be, hey, when he comes back for, Patriots Hall of Fame, whenever that happens, or when he gets into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But, I was done with him. I'm good. Awesome run. It was time to change. And now here he is. Every day there's something new, and it's pretty remarkable.
Probably short-sighted on my part that I wasn't thinking we'd really get into any of this, but there must be theories around Boston, especially about what is exactly happening here, because it all seems optically kind of weird.
Well, I was on TV last night, and there was a good point made by one of the other co-hosts who said, this is, because I was like, where's the Belichick that I knew? And he's like, no, this is the Belichick you knew for the last 5 years. Not the guy you knew for the first 20, but the guy for the last 5, the guy who decided, I only want to coach players that I like, the guy that would surround himself with yes men, who would install Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as his offensive coordinators, that wouldn't mention his quarterback's name, Mac Jones, by name for like 8 months, like legitimately just wouldn't say his name. So that sort of kind of and the unwillingness, even though I think there's a chapter in the book called Where I Effed Up, really the unwillingness to say that I effed up in any sort of public setting. So it's I don't know. We'll see what happens. If he wins at North Carolina, maybe this doesn't sort of leave a little mark on his legacy, but maybe it does. Well, I guess we'll have to find out.
He goes into those different NFL media shows, and the bar is just so low. And then he comes on and he says kind of obvious things, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's amazing." Belichick. He's 73. The girlfriend's 24. Jordan. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of on the SNL 50th anniversary where they had Paul Simon and Sabrina Carpenter sing together. Paul Simon says, I sang Homeward Bound. I sang this song on this stage with George Harrison in 1976. And Sabrina Carpenter says, I wasn't born then, and neither were my parents. Which is pretty good. Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, thanks for indulging us on Belichick here. The Patriots draft. So didn't end up being any sort of surprise. Will Campbell, offensive tackle up top. You get to a running back there in round 2. That's interesting. How do you think they did overall?
So I think people are going nuts about it, in both locally and nationally. I think it's like A pluses and A's across the board. I kind of look at it as it's a good draft. I would, not to be like a contrarian, I just think it's like a B to me. Like, they for the third time in 5 years, they drafted a kicker. That was late in the draft. They drafted a long snapper. When their long snapper, granted, he's a Belichick guy, and they've clearly gotten rid of all the Belichick guys, basically, but he still could play football, and they drafted and they just cut him, so now they drafted a long snapper, and they boxed themselves into a corner. So one of the reasons I would say it's a B is because they wanted Ronnie Stanley from Baltimore. Ronnie Stanley didn't technically get the free agency, right? He stayed with Baltimore, but that was their plan. That's what they wanted. They were going to dump a ton of money in him and a ton of money in Chris Godwin, and neither one of those guys ended up leaving their places. And so, they pivoted to Stephon Diggs, obviously, coming off the ACL, got him on what's essentially a one-year deal. But then when it came to the draft, they were backed into a corner at 4. Instead of being in a place where you could take the best available player, even if that guy was on defense, where you spent a lot of your free agent money, they were kind of married now to the idea of you got to take a tackle because you don't have one. You can't go through this upcoming year with the Vidarian Lowe, DeMontre Jacobs. Like they just can't do that if they want to keep their quarterback healthy. And so that's where, to me, if Will Campbell ends up being a guard, which is very possible, or just an average tackle, then it's like, well, it could have been better because you don't often pick at 4. And when you do, you don't want average. You want all-pro, Pro Bowl type caliber players. Maybe he can be that, but it's a stretch.
Would they have been picking 3rd if Joe Milton hadn't played out of his head against the Bills in Week 18?
I think they would have been picking first if my memory correctly.
Yes.
So,
they blew the first pick by winning that game.
Yes. And I would say that I think Sean McDermott deserves a ton of credit for one of his best coaching jobs. He refused to let the Bills win that football game. Right. Punting from the 30-yard line, their 30-yard line, like it was a piece de resistance. And I think Sean is probably still smiling about preventing the Patriots from being in control of the draft.
What was the Milton trade, by the way? I can understand not wanting him around for May's sake and just sort of not having that sort of over his shoulder, but they gave him away, Mike.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, right? Joe's not lacking confidence, and I think there was a feeling inside the building, even throughout last year, that Joe thought he should have been given a better shot at winning the job, which is, I would say, you're lacking awareness in that regard.
Yeah.
And I think Mike basically Vrabel came in and was like, "Nah, we're clearing the decks. You're gone. See you later. We'll attach a 7 to you. We'll move up whatever it was, 18 spots in the draft from where we drafted you last year, and we don't have to talk about it anymore."
Well, so the first pick here, Campbell, is scoring, it seems, very highly for his comments about being willing to die for his quarterback or whatever, however he said it. The concern with him was arm length and wingspan. How is that going over, and how real is that concern, and what has Vrabel done to sort of try to quell it?
I mean, they basically just said, like, why would we look at him in any other position? He played left tackle in the best conference in college football from the moment he walked on campus as an 18-year-old and was a, All-American, consensus All-American this year, all-conference, all these different things. Like, he's going to be the left tackle. And I don't expect them to say, like, hey, look, if it doesn't go that well, we'll kick him into guard where we think he could be awesome too. It's, no, he's our guy. You watch the tape. That's how they've answered it. What do you think about the wingspan? Well, watch the tape. The tape doesn't lie. He kept his quarterback clean. And there'll be people in the league that have told me that if you watch the tape, you actually see some of his problems with length. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to get any easier on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and whatever god other name days that they play on now in the NFL, where it's like, this is going to be a problem. One of the things he does, it was pointed out to me very early on in the process, like in November, when he figured, like, okay, this is supposed to be the best guy. It's like he oversets. He oversets because he struggles with the arm length to reach when a guy goes for his outside shoulder. So he oversets to prevent that from happening. And then what that does is it opens the front door. Got cross over his face and beat him that way. Again, good recovery speed, like didn't give up a ton of sacks or whatever, but like it's there. And now we'll see if guys can exploit it. Chris Long, who played in the league for 10 years, and he was a former Patriot for a year or two, and had nothing but great things to say about New England, was like, oh, we know it as defensive lineman. Like, that's going to be a problem for him. So can he be the exception, or is he going to be the rule and either be average or, again, kick inside?
Mike Giardi, our guest on the Wester Hotline from the Boston Sports Journal, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. How do you feel about the Diggs move, Mike? And do you happen to know what the timetable is for him?
Well, they continue to float the idea that he could be ready for week one, which I think, look, he puts out his social media videos. He's doing all kinds of stuff. Who knows if he's actually ready? Kendrick Bourne, who went through the same thing a year ago, obviously not the same level of player that Stephon is, and it took him 5 weeks to get back, week 5 of the regular season, I think it was. So I think that's probably more likely the scenario, but they haven't shot it down that he won't be ready for week one. And look, based on what happened, because they were going to throw the bag at Godwin, or they did, and he just didn't leave. And what else was out there in free agency? And, it's kicked around on trades. They tried to trade for Ayuk, and he didn't want to come here last year. And they were in on Metcalf, but not willing to go that far. And apparently Metcalf might have told them, like Ayuk did last year, I'm not really interested in coming there, that this was probably the best option, where, again, the contract looks really bloated from the outside, but on the inside, it's a 1-year deal, and if he returns to form, it's a hell of a 1-year deal. And if he doesn't, well, you had a ton of money to spend and, you took a shot and it didn't work. So I think they needed to do something. It's their room there is better now, although it's still not good, but it's like they have upgraded with Mac Hollins, now drafting Kyle Williams in the 3rd round, that there's going to be better competition. Again, might not be high-end competition, but better, so that should be at least an improvement from where they've been the last couple of years at that position.
Hollins skipping there from here was kind of interesting. There's one theory that after leading the Bills in touchdown catches in a Josh Allen MVP season with 5, that he wanted to maybe play again, like a full-time wide receiver role as opposed to special teams. I'm not sure if the Bills, wouldn't have given him that, but the theory goes that New England will give him that. Is that maybe your thought too, that he's not going to be special teamer Mac Hollins anymore?
I think he'll get more of an opportunity, but again, they just drafted Williams, who a lot of people rave about, and he's more of an X, even though he's not, he's not the prototypical 6'2", 6'3" X. He's a 5'11" guy, but he has ridiculous speed, and there's something that this offense has desperately needed. It's speed. So, if Williams is one of the rare receivers here in New England that catches on quickly, because they don't have a history of that, then, I could see Mac not necessarily loving being a part-timer and, being a special teamer. But again, they're not paying him a lot of money, so it's whatever,
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on last year's wide receiver class, and the Patriots ended up with two guys that we were pretty familiar with from just talking to draft people through last March and April leading up to the draft. Polk, a second-round pick last year, and Baker, Javon Baker, a fourth-round pick. Now with Diggs and Hollins and Pop Douglas and Boutte and Bourne still there, drafting Kyle Williams. Man, those guys might be already in trouble going into year two.
Yeah, I would think that Polk is safe just because he was a second rounder, and Elliott Wolf's the guy that drafted him, so he's still here, and has, he's still the quote unquote general manager. Well, that's not the title he has, but you know what I mean. But I think Baker's he couldn't get on the field last year. He couldn't learn the playbook. He was late. Every time it seemed like they were willing to give him an opportunity, he did something to screw it up. And so, they say clean slate, new staff, clean slate. Well, not really. He's probably got 2 strikes against him, and if he does anything stupid, that'll be that. He's talented. There's no question. You guys heard it. He definitely has skills, but lack of maturity, inability to figure out the playbook, pretty much doomed him. And Polk had off-season shoulder surgery, so there's some people wondering if that was why he had problems catching the ball last year or whatever, but I just think he was overwhelmed last season, and I wouldn't say I have great hopes for him going forward, but I would just say that, as a second-round guy, maybe you can, like Booty was nothing in his first year and then ended up having to, basically not come off the field last year because they didn't have anybody, and had an okay year. So maybe Polk can find his way on the field a little bit more and carve himself out some sort of role.
It is interesting, Stark, when a player drafted that early just gets kind of 1 year of it, and that's about it. So, yeah, like you said, I would think they'd give him at least some chance of redemption. Mike, what did you think of the Henderson pick? Travion Henderson, a name that was sometimes talked about as a first rounder, but he's a running back, so it can't be a shock that he didn't get picked that early. 3 downs? No, he's got the pass catching juice. Maybe he's a third down back in the beginning with Henderson, or what do you predict? Or with Stevenson?
I mocked him there at one point during this offseason, or whatever, a couple weeks ago, because I just thought that they were so desperate for playmakers that even though running back isn't a primary area of need, that might be just, hey, if he's there and this is how our board fell, we're just going to do it. As for whether or not he's a 3-down back, I know they said it after the draft. I would just say he missed 3 games in 2022 at Ohio State, 5 in 2023, and then last year when he was splitting time with Quinshon Judkins, he made it through all 16. So to me, his body says, his talent says I'm a 3-down back. His body says I'm best when I'm used in a committee, and maybe I'm a 12 to 15 touch guy, and that's probably with Stevenson and Gibson on the roster. That's probably the best thing for him, at least early on.
Yeah. You talked about what you think maybe the new coaching staff will think of certain players. What do you think they think of Stevenson?
That he's overpaid.
Okay.
I think they like the bully nature of him, but it's now been 2 years in a row. He had the great rookie. Oh, great. He had a very good rookie year, very promising rookie year. Yeah. And then he was outplayed 2 years ago by Ezekiel Elliott. And then last year, Antonio Gibson was the better back, for pretty much the majority of the season. And they kept rolling with Ramondre. And near the end, maybe Gibson started to get some more touches. But that, I think, is, I think they'd like the bully attitude that Ramondre brings. But between the ball security, some inability to stay healthy, I wonder. I don't know that they're going to be super loyal to him. If he puts the ball on the ground like he did last year, he could go away and not come back.
Flipping over to the other side of the ball, first thing that comes to my mind is what's the future for Christian Barmore? Very tough year last year, out for the first 10 weeks and then back, but then reoccurrence with the blood clots. Is there a way back for him, or is that known already?
So he's been working out. He is here in the voluntary part. They're on stage 3 now, the voluntary part of off-season workouts, and he has been here for that. I keep hearing sort of the cautious optimism about it, but no one's given us a real, we know what happened, what caused it. We haven't gotten that, so I can't, I'm not a doctor either, but that's just sort of the vibe that we've been getting, hey, he's hitting his checkpoints now. I know he had a doctor's appointment at the beginning of April, which I would assume allowed him to be here for OTAs and do all this stuff. So that's good. He's been kind of active on social media, comeback season loading, all that sort of stuff. So he must be feeling pretty good about where he stands right now. Look, if he's back and he's 85% of what he was 2 years ago, that defense is going to be a handful. If he's not, they're still a little thin there. They drafted Joshua Farmer in the 4th round. Some people thought he was a 3rd-round guy. Big physical kid from Florida State, really strong. Put him next to Milton Williams. But, last year when Barmore went out, they were running up bodies and playing a ton of snaps. Some guys that either didn't belong in the league, or like Daniel Akawale, who's now in Pittsburgh, played 60% of the snaps. Like he's a 20% snap guy, but that's where they're for. So I still think if Barmore's not completely right, or if there's still concerns about that, I'd say there's still one body short on the inside.
Right. They did do a lot of work in free agency. I think maybe as many as 5 new starters, on defense here, with Milton Williams and Tonga on the defensive line, Landry as an edge guy, Spillane as a linebacker, and Carlton Davis corner, right?
Yeah, so I think they looked at the defense, and maybe that was more inexplainable than anything. And look, they lost the spine of their defense between Barmore, then Ben got hurt early in the year, and then Peppers went away for whatever it was, 2 months with the suspension, and then whatever that was with the off-field allegations, and then came back and played like a game or two, and then was done for the year because of an injury. But I still think they look at that and say there was more talent on that defense to be as porous as they were. They were one of the worst defenses in football, and that free agency, they definitely were thinking offense in free agency. It just didn't work out that way. They made sure they got impact players at all 3 levels, or at least what they think are impact players at all 3 levels, and they should be, I don't know if they're a top 10 defense. Maybe they are if Barmore is back to being Barmore, but they should be a lot more solid and shouldn't be a reason why they're losing some of these games as they did last year, where they just couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Mike, just quickly before you go, the Bills went heavy on defense in this draft. You may have heard about the general manager of the team calling into our radio station earlier this week, and he was hot about some of the criticism, leaving wide receiver pretty much off the table. The Bills might be a bigger favorite to win the division than ever this year, and they've won the last 5 years. Do you see it as that, or New England or someone else maybe could be dangerous?
I think New England has the potential to be a friskier team this year, but I don't people here are talking playoffs, and I think a lot of things would have to go right for that to be the case. But it feels like New York took a step back. Not that they were good last year, but I'm not a Justin Fields believer. They didn't do much to help that passing game there. And then I don't know what's going on with Miami. You're trading Jalen Ramsey apparently. Somehow they're standing by Tyreek Hill, although I still think that probably isn't true, and they might try to trade him as well. So it feels like they're almost due for a reset. Hey, we put all our chips on the table, and then we couldn't win a game, and when it was cold, we couldn't keep our quarterback healthy. So yeah, to me, the Bills are the clear favorite, the clear favorite.
Have about a 3-game gap in the win total odds in that respect. All right, Mike, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal, here on the West Her Hotline. 803-0550 for your calls. Pretty eventful, interesting week, talking about the draft, and then Brandon Beane also. And I told you I saw a mock draft for next year. There's at least one thing about it you're going to like.
All right.
What did we ask Chris Trapasso yesterday? When will you start? When is too early to check with him about mock drafts? Well, it isn't too early for at least one analyst. I'm not criticizing Chris, but just casually mentioning this one I saw today. Okay, timeout here. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back after sports on WGR.
Busy night of playoff action. 4 games in the NHL. Toronto, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton can all advance with a win tonight. At 7, Ottawa hosts the Maple Leafs. 7:30 sees Las Vegas in Minnesota versus the Wild. Dallas is in Colorado versus the Avalanche at 9:30. And the night will wrap up at 10 with the Kings in Edmonton to take on the Oilers. We also have AHL playoff action. Rochester Americans in Syracuse, looking to close out their series as they take on the Crunch at 7. Paul Hamilton has more up on this series at our website, WGR550.com. And do stay tuned as Paul will join the show at 6 o'clock. Light night for the NBA, just 2 games. The Knicks and Denver can advance with a win. New York is on the road versus the Pistons at 7:30. Then at 10, the Nuggets are in LA versus the Clippers. The Bisons got an 8-1 win over Iowa, while the Mets fell to Arizona 4-2. And then later this evening, the Jays host the Red Sox. That game will get going just after 7 o'clock. And then looking ahead to tomorrow, the Buffalo Bandits take on the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL semifinals. Again, that is tomorrow, 7:30 at KeyBank Center. Pregame on WGR will begin at 7 p.m. And the first 10,000 fans will receive a playoff rally towel. Get your tickets now at bandits.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
This was probably the best option, where, again, the contract looks really bloated from the outside, but on the inside, it's a 1-year deal. If he returns to form, it's a hell of a 1-year deal, and if he doesn't, well, you had a ton of money to spend, and you took a shot, and it didn't work. I think they needed to do something. Their room there is better now, although it's still not good, but it's like they have upgraded with Mac Hollins, now drafting Kyle Williams in the 3rd round, that there's going to be better competition. Again, might not be high-end competition, but better, so that should be at least an improvement from where they've been the last couple of years at that position.
Our guest from earlier, Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal, on Stephon Diggs and the Patriots. We talked about Diggs for a minute before. Are you just kind of like all the way done?
I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
It's not really an interesting storyline anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. Like I never felt any juice on like an animosity end of things myself. When he was traded. I was more concerned about how it might impact the Bills, but from their standpoint, I understood it. If they thought he was declining, they might have been right. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he was doing all right in Houston before he got hurt, but now he's hurt. I always sort of felt this is very maybe mundane and boring, so I don't even know if it's worth saying.
Let me get a pen.
Thanks for coming. You were great. I would do this 100 times out of 100 over again. Even with the bumps and bruises and whatever, as rocky as it got at times. And then you went on your way. Thanks for coming. You had a very positive impact, I think, on the team and on Allen's growth. And maybe he on yours. I don't know. But, all good. I don't know. I never felt this sort of scorn or anything for him myself. That I don't know if I'm lacking something. But so... That's why I didn't even really think. I know we're going to talk to Mike Giardi today. So we open up talking about the schedule, and we're talking about the Patriots, and you're right there with Diggs. I'm like, oh yeah, Diggs. I admit, at that point, I had not looked at their depth chart yet. I would have seen him right away, but it just wasn't top of mind to me that he was there. So, I don't. By saying that, think he's necessarily done. Guys do come back even at his age from that injury, and I always thought that if one of the reasons I wanted when he and Davis were maybe getting through year 2 of their time together, right? They were together for 4 seasons. So about halfway through, and I'm like, okay, well, boy, this guy looks to me like he's obviously elite, number 1 alpha kingpin dude. But if I'm going to keep him around, maybe that has to sort of morph into a slot role. And so even halfway through Davis and Diggs being here, as good as that was going, get another guy and groom that guy, whether that's a first-round pick or a third-round pick. Get another guy that you can sort of work toward becoming a replacement for Diggs, and you can bump him inside. And obviously that wasn't in the cards. So, but I was thinking about his career beyond his elite level of play, so he could still have that. I don't know. I don't have much of a reaction to him, I guess. So I guess I'm done.
Okay. I don't really feel any of that animosity stuff either. I just have always, it's been a year, but liked it as a storyline. There was, I guess maybe it's been settled, Last year, and Brandon Beane to Tyler Dunn, as I mentioned earlier, said at golongtd.com, he's like, I feel like questioning our wide receivers last year going into the season was reasonable. That's not a quote, but that's what he got across, that I get it last year. He doesn't get it now, as we know. But that the test of the Bills post-Diggs, like what his loss would mean. And really, you'd have to score to win, maybe a huge win, what they were without him, even though they ended up having kind of the same season in the end. Still, they survived, to say the least. So not sure there's anything more to figure out there. I think it will be, maybe interesting if he comes back this year and New England's pretty good and he's making a big impact there, which is probably a lot to predict. The Patriots to make the playoffs at BetMGM plus 155. 100 wins, 155.
Yeah.
The Jets to make the playoffs plus 475. That's huge odds. Miami plus 150. Almost identical to New England to make it. So all the Bills' opponents in the AFC East are favored to miss the playoffs. The Bills to make it are minus 650. The odds are the same for the Bills to make the playoffs as they are for the Jets to miss. That's not bettable. I'm not betting any minus 650. No self-respecting person is betting that.
No, never. No, never. Even if I had money I didn't know what to do with, I don't think I'm making that bet. And even I'm 90% sure it's going to win. I decided those aren't odds I want to live with.
Not good enough odds.
Yeah. I do think, not thinking about it competitively from a Bills standpoint, right? I think, somewhat objectively as I can look at it, I think a Diggs bet is worth making for New England. It was worth trying. They are, they're in the place that the Bills were in when they went and got Diggs themselves. They've got this young quarterback there's a little bit of raw, wild horse in him. So we got work to do with him. And, but the athlete is in there. The arm is in there. Competitiveness and the leadership stuff seems like it's in there. And I already said, I think Diggs had a positive impact on the organization while he was here and on Allen specifically. And so if I'm New England and I'm looking at receiver options, like Mike Giardi was saying last segment, sure, you wanted to shoot higher, but, some guys didn't even make it to market like you would have hoped. I think Diggs is I would make that bet. If I were rooting for New England, I'd be like, all right, I don't know that that's going to work, but I'll throw $5 on it. That to me, it's worth going to the window and putting that slip in, I think, for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, already looking forward to Week 8 when the Patriots visit.
Okay.
In 2025. That's what I'm working schedule. That's what I have right now. I am putting at New England Week 1 Monday night.
Wow.
I think that's a pretty nice little game. Bills at Patriots. I think that's not amazing for a primetime game, but neither was Bills Jets. The Rodgers storyline that year was, I'm sure, a lot of that. Is New England that interesting? No. But Vrabel is interesting. The Diggs piece, May. It's not terrible. And then, just you get to the middle here, you just kind of fill them in.
Yeah.
So I'm going Week 8.
Well, take your time and don't rush to fill them in. Give it some thought. Maybe a good idea will present itself. You just need to let it breathe.
Christmas, I'm already kind of in a box here.
Oh, yeah.
Because this time I'm going week to week, chronologically. But I know Week 17 is Christmas, and I'm expecting the Bills to play. And I think at home, Hallmark movie, snow.
Yeah.
The early game of 3. Goodell, by the way, has said it's going to be 3 games every year on Christmas.
Regardless what day of the week it falls on.
So I used up a couple of the other games. I've got Tampa here on Christmas. How interesting is Tampa Bay as an opponent? A little bit, right?
Sorry, I'm
looking at the camera.
I'm making a face.
That bad?
Camera. I'm making a face.
I'm not putting Kansas City there. I'm not putting Philadelphia there. Too good.
Yeah.
Kansas City played on Christmas last year. Kansas City said they want to play on Christmas every year.
Yeah, they wanted to be like the Detroit Lions or Dallas Cowboys of Christmas Day, even hosting it every year.
Yes.
And the commissioner said, yeah, no, get bent.
Really?
I don't think he said get bent, but he said we're not doing that. We're going to rotate it. It's going to be different teams or whatever, different hosts.
Would you take that to mean they and the Ravens, Steelers, Texans all will not play on Christmas this year? Would you take that to mean that?
Yeah. Yeah.
New teams?
Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way, but yeah. That would make sense to avoid, giving fan bases and the rest of the country the same show to an extent, or half of the same show that they gave them last year. I also think the Bills are going to play a Christmas Day game. They feel right for it. The Hallmark piece, I think, is a key piece. Like I don't know how promotionally interwoven Hallmark is with any of the league partners broadcast wise.
No.
If I knew that they were like Google could tell me this probably in a few seconds, but I'm just not going to do it right this second. But if they're like in bed with, like if they're owned by NBC Universal or something, then bank it. Right? If they're partnered with any of the broadcast entities, and there's so many of them now, but I mean the traditional ones, not Prime, not Netflix, right? But ESPN, Fox, CBS, NBC. If they're they almost have to be. If they're any kind of a network channel, they have to be.
Yeah, and these movies would tell you like the NFL brand is in the movie. Chiefs and Bills, like the Bills are this one. Hallmark.
Okay, right.
So they'd have to be some kind of partner.
Then you're getting a Bills Christmas game.
This Bills Christmas movie is not going to be like only just Buffalo football team. Like we used to have to talk.
Right. See, I didn't pay enough attention to the Chiefs one to know that they used the names and everything.
I'm assuming this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm assuming this. I mean, the Bills they're in on it.
Right.
It has their blessing. Yeah. You'd expect a Hallmark movie to be especially controversial, and you wonder if the team would sign off on it. But I think in this case the team is. They're a part of the project. They're a partner.
But then you can bank that then. They're getting Christmas Day.
Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Tampa, though.
I mean, there's no rivalry, but they're pretty good. Who do you want there instead? You want to put like a massive game there? I don't. I just want it to be pretty good.
I would sooner expect a massive game than I would Tampa.
But Tampa's a playoff team.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
You would sooner expect the Bills' Christmas Day opponent, and it can't be the Chiefs, Texans, or Ravens, or Steelers? Because those teams played last year, you're saying?
Chiefs could be good, though. If the Hallmark movie is about like a Bills, I don't know what role the Chiefs play in that, if any. But if the Chiefs are a part of that...
You can't do that. You're not putting the Chiefs and Bills on Christmas Day against each other. I shouldn't be so certain.
I think my instinct is that you're probably right, but because of the movie thing, I don't want to rule it out.
Kansas City will be here week 12. I'm writing it down.
Tampa. Merry Christmas from Buffalo. Here's Tampa.
Sunday night or 425? Tampa. It's that bad. It's an interesting team. It's Emeka Ibuka.
I know. It's just still, I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't know. Just doesn't land on me well.
They've never played, you're thinking to yourself.
The Bills and the Bucks have never played. Yes, that's right. I forgot all about that overtime game from 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, my goodness. So do I. I forgot about that, too.
That was a great game.
I think about awful 1988 loss, 10-5. Bills playing the Bucks. I think about that game in 1988 and the O.J. Howard game.
Thank you. I knew you were going to say
where the Bills beat the Bucks at home. Game where Tywan Jones had his helmet ripped off, right, in the end zone? Is that him?
I'm not. I remember him getting a gruesome head injury on a kickoff.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So I know about the end zone. But,
that's what I meant.
Okay.
And Bills, Buccaneers. Yeah, that's kind of like those are the. I don't think about the Brady game. I don't think about him playing for them. Was that 3 years? It was, right?
He played 3 seasons there?
I think so.
Sure.
They lost to the Rams in the playoffs. They lost to Dallas in the playoffs. And they won it.
They won okay.
So it's at least 3.
All right. It can't be more than 3.
It was exactly 3.
Okay.
Started every game for 3 years.
At his age.
Led the league.
What a marvel.
In attempts and completions in both of his final 2 seasons at ages 44 and 45. At age 44, led the league also in yards and touchdown passes. 5,316 yards at age 44 for Brady with the Bucs. 13-4 record. Damn. Is that good?
Yeah, but could they run it at all?
Could he run?
Could they run?
How many yards did Tom Brady rush for in his career? 23 seasons. Did he get to 1,000 yards rushing?
No. I'm going to guess that number is over under 499 yards.
1,123.
Oh, what a horrible job by me.
It's like 4 yards per game for his career.
That sounds like a lot for him.
It does. Yeah, one good run. It's not even that good.
Right.
4 yards per game, 333 games, 1,123 yards, 28 touchdowns.
Is that factoring in all the kneel downs?
It is. And there were a lot of them, probably.
I would think, yeah.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550. This is WGR. One more on Brady. He's first all-time in games started in NFL history, but sixth in games played.
George Blanda?
Yeah, George Blanda is one of the top 5. Yes, that's actually right. Can you figure out how you would be first in started but sixth in played? Who are all these guys that played more games than he did but didn't start those games? Kickers.
Okay.
I guess kickers don't get credit for starts, even though literally sometimes they're kicking the ball is the very start of the game.
Right.
But like Morton Anderson has the most games played in NFL history, 382. But I don't know if he gets credit for any starts. So
and Blanda did some kicking too, in addition to playing quarterback.
That's right.
So I'm looking for long tenured kickers.
Oh, do you want to guess the others? Okay.
Kinda.
One's one of his teammates.
Adam Vinatieri.
Mm-hmm.
Jan Stenerud.
No.
Yeah, I'm out. I was only going to give myself one miss.
It's a minefield. One miss and you're out.
Yep.
Gary Anderson.
That was the next name out of my mouth.
And Jeff Fiegels.
Would have never gotten to Jeff Fiegels.
A punter.
Yeah.
352 games punted. Oh, the Bills have punted some games, I'll tell you.
That's a lot of punting.
The Bills have punted more games than 352. Not really. We will take a break. Haven't gotten to the hockey playoffs yet, but some good stuff. And the Leafs-Senators go tonight, one of 4 games tonight. 803-0550 for your calls. We want to talk Bills, draft, some of the things we've been on today. The schedule month. We all celebrate, right? The month of the NFL schedule. What's one thing you want from it? Last year, the stadium, that makes it even a little bit more interesting to try to figure out, strategy, if that's the word. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.
Tonight, 4 games in the NHL. Toronto, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton can all advance this evening with a win. At 7, Ottawa hosts the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7:30, Las Vegas, they're in Minnesota to take on the Wild. Dallas is in Colorado at 9:30, and then the night will wrap up at 10 with the Kings in Edmonton versus the Oilers. We also have action in the AHL playoffs. The Rochester Americans in Syracuse looking to close out their series as they take on the Crunch at 7. Paul Hamilton has more on this series up at our website, WGR550.com. And do stay tuned as Paul will join the show in just about an hour at 6. Lighter night for the NBA, just 2 games. The Knicks and the Nuggets can advance with a win. New York is on the road versus the Pistons at 7:30. And then at 10, Denver is in LA versus the Clippers. The Bisons got an 8-1 win over Iowa, and the Mets, they fell to Arizona 4-2. Later tonight, though, we will have the Toronto Blue Jays hosting the Boston Red Sox, that game just after 7 p.m. And then a look ahead to tomorrow, the Buffalo Bandits take on the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL semifinal, again this Friday, 7:30 p.m. at KeyBank Center. Pregame right here on WGR will be at 7, and the first 10,000 fans will receive a playoff rally towel. Get your tickets now at bandits.com. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Dope.
We were having a very serious conversation about mayonnaise here.
And the Bulldog.
And don't even talk to me about weed.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
I love these where, like, you only get the handout if you, like, get there right away. The Bandits, you have to get, 10,000. The math you do in your head about what the quality of the prize versus what does it mean for me? Like, do I have to leave half an hour? Or what do I have to do to be one of the first 10,000 people to get a towel?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to sell the game out, right? So just, I don't know, get like 8,000 more towels, I think, maybe. Easy for me to say. I don't know how much these towels cost, but I'm guessing
it's I bet a lot. To make?
Not a lot.
I bet a lot to make.
Yeah.
The Bandits thing is super cool. It's maybe bigger than ever. I mean, the Bandits and the Sabres have left such a void.
Yeah.
The Bandits, great that they've, if you will, filled it with, they're winning. They've won the last 2 championships, and they're going for a third. The way it works, by the way, in this series, it's a 3-game series, best of 3. So they'll play home tomorrow night, then they go to Vancouver for the second game, and then they'll come back next weekend for
I think next Friday night or Saturday night. The 10th is the date I have in my mind, so that might be...
If needed.
Yeah, if needed. Yeah.
So Saturday morning, my son had a lacrosse game in West Seneca, I guess that is. So he and I are driving from Grand Island to West Seneca Saturday morning. And I passed 3 billboards with the Bandits, with Dane Smith and Josh Byrne on it. 3 different billboards. One was for, I think, maybe insurance. One was for...
not promoting the Bandits, but
not promoting the game.
They're spokespeople
using
for businesses. Yeah, awesome.
Using them, maybe in uniform, 3 different times. One might have been for the game, but there were no Sabres anything.
Yeah.
And there probably are, is it Darlene? Is it Thompson? Is it someone else? There probably are some commercials or what? Is there anything actually with any Sabres player?
I don't know.
Alex Tuck?
Tuck I've seen in like a Sabres thing with there's some partner of theirs that Tuck is in a commercial for that was airing during the games. I'm almost sure of it. Because there's also, stuff that they do themselves promotionally, with the mascot and whatever. But I think he's in an ad, Tuck. I don't know about anybody else at this point, honestly. Nothing comes to mind. They might be out there, but I haven't seen it as far as I know. But Tuck, I'm pretty sure, has something in that respect. But that's awesome for those Bandits guys. I was very adamant last year around this time that I was going to make that happen, and my schedule has gotten away from me here as the season has ended and the playoffs had begun, and I'm out of town this weekend. If they make it to, if there is a Game 3 in this series with Vancouver, then that's I think a possibility. And then if, of course they keep going, then there will be further opportunities. But I have not followed through on getting to a game. I've got a jersey and everything.
You do have a jersey.
I'm prepared to wear it, even though it's got 3 numbers on the back. And
you're like a training camp
and it says Bulldog on it. But whatever, I'm gonna rock that.
It's the jersey they give you at like these lacrosse clinics when there are more than 100 kids.
Right.
You're number 284.
Right.
Or you're number 550 in this case, and so am I, by the way.
Right.
There's 2 550s on this team. There's never been. Well, I don't want to be so dramatic. I hate instant replay. And so do you. On Friday night in their win over San Diego, there was one of the most closest call instant replay moments that you'll ever see, where they scored a goal right at halftime, and they're showing an overhead camera, this is on the TV broadcast, with the clock in the corner, and it's like 0.2, and the player is releasing the shot. It's one of these plays where he's diving from behind the net to dunk it over the goalie's shoulder.
I love that play. I early in the year, I watched a couple of games at a bar that I hang out at. They had them on. One of them was a road game. They were streaming somehow, which was awesome. And I saw players make that play. And I'm like, I've never seen that. I haven't watched enough of this. I've never seen that. That's awesome.
So he's releasing the ball at 0.2 or even 0.3, whatever, and you sort of don't see it. And the replaying it so slowly that the clock, you can see the number changing from 0.2 to 0.1. It's just not like click. It's sort of gradual.
Yeah.
And then so it's 0.1, and then there appears the ball right over the goalie's, right behind his head, in the net, right over his back. The full ball, you can barely see it, but it's in. And it's like the 0.1, but the 0 is starting to form.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So it's not quite to 0. It's less than 0.1. And they counted the goal.
That seems pretty tight.
To make it 5-2, and they won the game 5-4.
Wow. What I did see the score. It was a very low scoring.
San Diego scored its final goal with 1 second left. They might have even reviewed that too. It was sort of funny that, that's a tough loss.
Well, if Bandits fans are out there wanting the sport to grow even to the point where it's just getting more and more notoriety, having a flawed, controversial replay system is a great way to go. Because nothing gets the clicks like a flawed nothing gets my attention like a terrible replay system.
Bad calls are the best.
I'm mostly kidding. It seems like they're doing great without that. So no worries.
That is a thing, though, about not replay, but just like sports in general. Part of the replay, I don't know, maybe this is, you would say going too far, but I've always thought this about replay. The main problem with it for me in sports is the seasons are so long. Football is shorter, but still, the seasons are so long that if I even lose a game on a call that looks like it was a mistake, I should be able to live with that. What about the playoffs? The 162 baseball games, and I'm reviewing. Well, in spring training, I could challenge pitches, and there's challenges, on the bases and everything else. And most of these calls, of course, do not determine who wins the game. You get bad calls that even out. It's such a waste of time for me. Soccer is driving me crazy now with the VAR. There was a goal yesterday that was taken down, Arsenal against PSG for 1-1. And the offside, it's just it's a sliver of the guy's shoe or something.
Right.
Can't have a goal there. So I don't have to be told how high the stakes are and everything like this, but the vast majority of these replay reviews are of plays that really it doesn't matter.
It's just a waste of time. Yeah.
It's just a waste of time. So the vast majority, not all. So, that's a big part of it. And then, the times where you really can't tell.
Right.
But I started to say, and then I went another direction. The bad calls, think about our show over the years and how much the officiating becomes a story in a close game where, why wasn't this holding? Why wasn't this pass interference? Why wasn't this challenged? All that kind of stuff. You want to appreciate how much of the energy about the game that represents. I mean, they keep trying to make it perfect, and I don't think you want it to be perfect.
Right.
You can't make it perfect anyway.
Right.
But that effort just seems so unnecessary. And now, of course, this is also going too far, but you're at that soccer game and you can't even really cheer when a goal is scored because you have to wait.
Right.
So you cheer because you sort of like a reaction, but like, wait a minute, I don't know.
Yeah, that has been, the thing, especially in football. But it's in all the sports now, and it only takes when did they start with this replay stuff in the NHL with the offsides challenge? 10 years ago now.
During Murray.
Okay.
So
a while
about that.
Right? It definitely didn't take from then until now for this to happen, what I'm about to say. But, yeah, the same thing happens now all the time. It's just there. Like, I don't even think about it anymore. I just go, oh, was there an offsides before that? In my head, my reaction to a team scoring a potential series-clinching goal in the playoffs is, is it going to be – I don't remember. When the puck came in, is there going to be a review? And that's the worst. This is not a place. This started with football. Really, it's been there with football for a long time before replay with penalty flags, And now that but there's a flag down, and now you're looking at the part of the screen during a football game for where the little yellow insignia is going to show up. You're waiting. Like, oh, I don't see it yet. I don't see. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Right. It just takes so much out of the joy, and there's no getting it back. Once you have grown accustomed to going, I hope that stands as your reaction to any good play for any team, for any game you're watching, you've lost the battle. You've lost the fight. It's over. You've succumbed to replay. You're at the mercy of it. And I despise that so much. It just takes so much of the and it doesn't happen all the time. But there's a moment there where you have to be, you're waiting to hear, the coaches are huddling here. They're looking at something. I think, well, it might be offside. Oh my God. It's just so bad.
Something that you watch a lot more hockey than I do, but I'm when it happens, I kind of root for this. When I'm watching a game live and think that maybe a play should have been called offside, I so want there to be a goal to see if I was right, but never has it happened on any of these plays that the goal has actually been scored, so we find out.
Right.
Like, that looked offside to me. And then, it plays out and the puck is just dumped out of the zone. Like, oh, we'll never know. That's just never going to be a thing.
Right.
At least they don't challenge offsides on non-scoring plays.
Right.
Can you imagine if you got to that point?
Got to get that neutral zone draw. I'm dominating in the circle, so I want to stop play and try to get the puck back. Ugh, yeah, it's so bad. And the rules analysis guy or gal, I haven't seen it be a woman in any of these examples across all these different sports we talk about, but the NHL, it's ESPN, is Dave Jackson, and he just never has it. I mean, just never has it. It's such. I early in the playoffs, they went to him for something, and it's just he cannot spit it out. It seems like he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't want to question the officials. He's very tough. You'd be better off just putting a screen up like technical difficulties rather than having this guy try to explain to you what is happening or what the outcome of this is going to be. Just give me please stand by and like elevator music.
Wow.
All right. It's just so pointless. Really tough.
That's the worst. That's the meanest criticism I've ever heard for an announcer.
Sorry. I mean, I'm not.
You're better off just muting him and just going dark.
Yes. Dead air.
It's so bad.
It's terrible. Oh, the hockey playoffs have been very tough from a television standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's this element. TBS has got Leafs Senators tonight, and now I don't know if this has changed since it became widely known. And maybe it was widely known and just radios the Bulldog didn't know about it. But it came to my attention, I think, last weekend, first weekend of the playoffs. whenever TBS and TNT had their first games, because for the first few days it was all ESPN and ESPN2. But then once TNT and TBS got going, it became known that they are not sending their announcing crews to Canada. So they had an overtime winner for Draisaitl in the Edmonton LA series with the announcers in a studio somewhere in the United States. I don't know where. I don't need to guess. Doesn't matter. They're not there, right? I don't love like the combination of, say, Buccigross and Kevin Weeks, who they replaced with AJ Malesko for this last game the other night, Toronto-Ottawa, and I like her a lot, and that buffered the whole thing. Weeks and Buccigross together, I like them individually together. It's just doesn't really work for me. But then you get TBS, TNT, and the announcers they're not there. So tonight, if that holds, like they will have, all this drama with Toronto. I mean, they're on the road in Ottawa. Their history 1-13 now in their last 14 series clinching closeout games, and I'm going to have announcers, in a can talking to me from Virginia or something. Well, I mean, it's the NHL playoffs. It's not the World Championships from like Bulgaria or something.
No, it's not Bulgaria.
It's the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That's fair.
What are we doing?
What is the point?
How in the world does the league allow a partnership with? I mean, TNT. I've liked their the studio crew isn't for everyone. Whatever. I like Kenny Albert a lot. You've really turned me around. I never disliked him, but given what you have to pick from, he is far and away the best guy.
He's pretty much perfect
doing that job.
I think.
I like McDonough and Ray Ferraro together. Well, I love Ray Ferraro, and so that ESPN crew works. But not having crews there, and they're carrying the final, at least some of it. And I don't know, maybe it'll change if a Canadian team makes it. But what in the world do you think you're doing? I just cannot believe. Like we get mad here, a little in-house. If Paul doesn't go somewhere, like we feel bad about that. Like whatever, it's financial, and that aggravates us. This is the network partner, television partner for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Well, it's a small-time operation, Turner.
Man,
they're just trying to get their foot in the door as a network. TBS.
I won't, not a full apology. If it's changed and they're going to be there because of maybe there was an uproar, I don't know. More than likely, no one's even paying attention or cares because it's just hockey. I don't know. Like we're so far down the rung here on the ladder that maybe it just doesn't register. But if they got pressure and it changed, then good. But as far as I know, they're not sending crews, and I just think that's an embarrassment for the league, big time.
Leafs Senators is TBS tonight, so that's the one to watch. Edmonton is home. That's ESPN, though.
Okay.
So they'll have people there?
Yeah.
Is it, how obvious is it? Like, you know this, so it bothers you. Will I notice it if I didn't know it?
I think there are, you'd have to really compare, like, watching the two, but there's stuff, I can tell you this, because even going back to when Dan and Rob weren't traveling during COVID, delayed penalty. You're not in the building,
you don't know.
So you're at the mercy of whatever the camera is showing you. And if neither referee is on the screen when an infraction happens, you're guessing. The goalie pulled. Same thing. The announcers in the building are not going to, they're going to see it. If you're not in the building, you're at the mercy of the camera angle. You're not going to be able to tell me that the goalie's pulled.
Right.
And I don't even know if your television production is going to be able to get a graphic up there that says, empty net. And that stuff matters. I mean, it's the playoffs. It's so frustrating. So, yes. And from an audio standpoint, this Draisaitl winner was I saw like a cut up of the TBS call, and I don't even know who it wasn't Kenny Albert, it was somebody else on their team there that had the call from a studio wherever they are versus the Sportsnet call with the announcer in the building. Mm-hmm. Like the crowd is way more muted. You just do not have what you should be getting from a playoff hockey game. You just don't. And it's horrendous. Now, not that being in the building solves all that. The early games in this Toronto-Ottawa series with Buccigross and Weeks in the building, the levels were all screwed up. You couldn't hear the crowd. They sounded Remember how the radio used to sound when, you look late night, way back in the day, like the Sabres are on the road out west and you're listening under the covers? Somehow, in the year 2025 of our Lord, Bluchergrass and Weeks sounded like they were doing a game on
from bed
equipment that we have even replaced because it's so outdated. I know it wasn't old equipment, but it just sounded terrible. It just was very tinny and not. I don't know. It's been a tough playoffs.
I think a great play-by-play announcer uses the crowd in how he carries his voice and how he speaks. You think of Rick Jenneret in those classic moments in the Aud or the arena, he would sort of soar above the crowd and then fade out. Like there's a talent to that. And these guys, if they're not in the building, it's irrelevant. I'm not sure if they're all that good, but still, I think to do that really on the Bob Cole level, you would. His calls were different, maybe not the best example, but you would want to use the crowd.
Yeah, I think you need, in order to overtime game-winning goal in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think you need the energy of the crowd to help you get there with the call. I'm not being so hard on the guy doing the announcing. I'm guessing it's not his choice to not be there. But it just doesn't. He just doesn't get there because I think it's a big ask to get there. You're in this room,
to generate your own energy.
2,000 miles away from it's up to you, and that's tough. How hard do you go? You don't have to yell over the crowd, right? So you're just not going to get to the level you should be at, and it's just an embarrassment. And if it's been rectified, it doesn't erase the embarrassment of it going as far as it's gone already with them. It just is completely unacceptable for the league. And it still blows. I'll say it again. It blows my mind. Gary Bettman didn't go to whoever is in charge. No, get on a plane. What are you doing? This is the playoffs. We cannot have you it's just not okay.
You must like how they have the start times staggered tonight.
They are doing a decent job of that.
Even starting as early as 6 sometimes.
Yes.
Not tonight. 7, 7:30, 9:30, 10.
Yep.
7 and 9:30, the Toronto game and the Dallas game are TBS games. The others are ESPN. Vegas, early, and then at LA.
I should be able to stay up to watch everything tonight.
Edmonton.
Because I'm flying in the morning, and there is no chance I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. Even and we're not flying early either. We're flying 10:30, so we don't have to be at the airport crazy early. But I know what's going to happen. I'm going to wake up at 3 and just be like, "Did I pack everything? I might as well just get up," and I'm going to be up. So at least if I go to bed later, maybe that won't happen until 5. And I can live with that. At least it'll be light out in an hour or so. I can deal with that.
Edmonton is one win from taking out the Kings for the 4th straight year.
Yeah,
has that happened?
Same teams like that 4 years in a row? Boy, I don't think so. Even the Sabres, when they didn't win for 10 years in a row.
They would alternate Montreal, Boston.
Yeah, Quebec might have even been in there.
Twice.
Yeah, so, I don't recall them ever having the same thing 4 in a row.
It never happened to them.
So, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it really is. It really is something.
Has one team ever beaten another in a playoff series 4 straight years? That's probably something I can find out. 803-0550, that 2026 mock draft. Can't forget about it.
Sorry, I kind of hijacked that whole segment with hockey announcer stuff.
It's good. I'm getting a lot of... my phone is blowing up about it. Or maybe it's just blowing up. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, back after the update. Your calls are welcome on WGR.
Very busy night for the playoffs. We've got 4 games in the NHL. Toronto, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton can all advance tonight with a win. At 7, Ottawa will host the Maple Leafs. 7:30 sees Las Vegas in Minnesota versus the Wild. Dallas is in Colorado at 9:30 versus the Avalanche, and then the night will wrap up at 10 as the Kings are in Edmonton versus the Oilers. Also got some AHL playoff action tonight. The Rochester Americans are in Syracuse, looking to close out their series as they take on the Crunch at 7. Paul Hamilton has more on this series up at our website, WGR550.com, and do stay tuned as Paul will join the show at 6. It's coming up in just about a half hour. Later night for the NBA, just 2 games as the Knicks and Nuggets can advance with a win. New York on the road versus the Pistons at 7:30. Then at 10, the Denver Nuggets are in LA to take on the Clippers. And then a look ahead to tomorrow, the Buffalo Bandits will take on the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL semifinals. Again, this Friday, tomorrow, 7:30 at KeyBank Center. Pregame on WGR at 7 p.m. and the first 10,000 fans will receive a playoff rally towel. Get your tickets now at bandits.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Doesn't exist because if it's not him, I don't know who.
Ross Tucker is on Good Morning Football this week, and Bulldog said, I would say the same thing. We love Ross, but it's not getting us to Good Morning Football. Who would have to be on for you to turn on Good Morning Football?
Yeah, that's a tough score to beat because I really, really admire and respect and like our relationship with Ross. And if he isn't enough to get me there, I don't know that a person exists.
Nobody?
That even someone well outside of the football world. I don't think anyone would really.
Who would it be?
Wilco songwriter Jeff Tweedy guest hosting on Good Morning Football. I don't think that.
I can't think of anyone.
I don't think it would get me there. Yeah, Ross is as good as it could get for me.
Ross is the test of all tests.
Yeah.
On this front,
and
it's not enough.
I'm happy for him. I hope it's going great.
I think it would be like if you were on, I'd watch it.
Okay. Well, thank you, and same. Probably.
I'd want to see how that went.
If you were on.
Probably. 80-20. If Bulldog was on Good Morning Football, would you turn it on? I don't even know if the show is bad. I've never had the first impulse to find out. I have enough football.
I saw bits of it when it first came to prominence, and I thought it was different enough that I thought this could work, and maybe I might even like it. But again, it's just not. I'm not waking up and going, I gotta get the NFL Network on.
I can't watch anything where I think there can be fake laughter.
No,
I can't. I mean, nothing. I can't deal with fake laughter. The pregame shows. The first problem I have with it, I think, would be just somebody says a thing, it's not even funny, and the other guy's, oh! That's just the worst television in the world to me. There was a tweet today, maybe from Peter Schrager, about how the more international games there are being played, how they're sort of creeping in on pregame shows, and Sam Monson tweeted, finally something good.
Right.
And I said, amen, Sam. I mean, that...
Yeah.
You don't have to watch them, I guess. The mock draft I was mentioning, the draft just ended. What mock draft? Why even do a mock draft when you can just copy the real one? But no, this is for 2026.
All new players.
Brendan Donahue from Sharp Football Analysis puts the Bills on defensive back out of South Carolina, Jalen Kilgore. And I don't know anything about him.
They just drafted a defensive back in the first round last year. There's no way they're drafting another defensive back in the first round.
803-0550. What would happen? Why do they need a defensive back in the first round next year?
Why isn't it a receiver?
Again.
Sorry, just trying to be on brand.
Why do they need a DB if they have Benford and now Hairston? How badly did that go if I'm drafting Jalen Kilgore from South Carolina?
Are they already worried about Hairston? Is that it?
That must be it.
That could be it.
I think this is a good thing. I think we should use more of these next year's mock drafts. What is what's the backstory? Did somebody get hurt? What is the backstory? Can't have enough of them?
Well, I mean,
Taron Johnson leaves.
No, but the guy, the Ohio State guys.
That didn't work out. That's a day 3 pick.
Oh.
You can't expect that to work out.
That's terrible.
The thing that you will like about this, if you don't like that already, that idea, is it was pick 32.
It's a year too late on a South Carolina defensive back for me. That's all it is.
Yeah, Worry,
yeah.
It was pick 32.
Oh. Hey now.
That's the thing I thought you would like about it.
Draft a kicker. I don't care. I'm going to be drunk for months.
I don't believe there were trades in this mock draft.
Yeah.
How great would that be?
Do whatever you want.
How great would it be if somebody did a mock draft for next year and at the top of the article they wrote, does not include trades, even though we don't have any, everybody's 0-0. Go ahead and make the order anything you want. Just make it anything you want. I'm going to trade here. Dallas has the 15th pick, and Pittsburgh has the 11th pick. I see a move. I see a move in the works. Oh, baby, that hats off to you if you're doing that.
You're picking 32nd. I listen.
Next year's mock draft without standings yet, and you have trades in it.
I will not really adhere to this, but there's a part of me that just would want to be like, I don't do whatever you want for the rest of time. I don't care. Tre'Davious White in his 18th season, after they win, he's still here. 10 years after they went, roll him out there. I don't. It's fine. It's all good. I'm good. I'm of course exaggerating a
little bit,
quite a bit. But I was like this when the only team that I've ever cared somewhat passionately about won the first World Championship of my lifetime, when the Red Sox won in 2004, like 2005 opening day. I wanted everyone back. Like, I don't care if Derek Lowe is finished. Get him a jersey. I want the whole game. No, I don't need a new shortstop. Keep going. Give me Orlando Cabrera back out there, and Pokey Reese, and Doug Minkiewicz, and just Bill Miller, Trot Nixon. Go on. I want to watch you guys play this year. I don't care if you go 0-162. I just want to see the batting order and think about last year every time I turn the TV on. That's all I want from you right now.
Imagine if, like, the Bills win the Super Bowl this year, and, it's still the NFL draft. We're still excited about it, maybe even more excited about it because they've won. And, they pick a cornerback or a linebacker or something. Can you say anything?
No.
Can you make the wide receiver point?
I'm telling you,
if they win it?
This seed first got planted with me when, so I just mentioned the Red Sox. When the Red Sox won in 2004, I remember like a year later, like the Boston station, WEEI, a big, long-time, famous station. They've been the flagship of the Red Sox for a long, long time. I believe they still are, but I'm not positive. I don't watch enough of their games to see the signs or anything, but I think so. But there were other things happening, like competitors came into the market and different things, but they lost their sort of stranglehold on the community because the Red Sox won. Like, the anxiety of them winning it just changed, people's listening habits. It changed how they approached it. And what I've always said, like, be careful. Like, you don't know what your relationship is going to be like with the team after they win. And for us, I think the Bills win. I've said this a few different times. Obviously, I want them to win. I want this challenge to present itself to us. Okay? Nobody's going to hear me complaining about how good the left guard is. It's just, I think this doesn't go across the board because there are people that are way more angry and passionate. And, we talked about grateful versus frustrated or whatever yesterday. And there are people all over that spectrum. So it doesn't go for everyone. But I think I am, by saying I'm so grateful, I am this sort of person. So it's weird that I'm, in this spot. But I would be that person. If I'm riding around in my car on my way, taking my kids to softball practice or whatever I'm doing, and the Bills have won the Super Bowl, and 4 months later, the guy on the radio is yelling about the whatever. I'm just like, I gotta listen to some music. I don't want to listen to it right now. I'm happy. I am happy. And the anxiety factory that I have been living in was the fuel that kept me going to listen to the guys talk about it and the callers and all the whole thing. Win, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I know you got a job to do, but I'm gonna go listen to some Journey.
I know. I think this is all right for me too. The fact that they haven't won it yet, despite all the winning they've done, leaves room for a certain level of scrutiny, and the debate, the macro debate about the one like we're having this week is whether it's fair, like whether. People say, what about the Sabres? What are you guys doing? Like, how are you criticizing the Bills? Well, you think there's enough room. There's not a championship yet.
Right.
So at times I'll say something and I think, well, am I trying too hard here? Like they've won so much. But overall, no. That small space between what they've done and winning it all is enough.
But once that banner goes up, it's a very different dynamic.
If they win a Super Bowl this year in any way, every draft pick pans out, Patrick Mahomes breaks his wrist. I mean, in any way, if any way they do it, we get to next year and, maybe we still want a wide receiver because it's a really important position and the Bills have gone all this time without acting like they know that. And you want to say all that. What can you? I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can. Scoreboard, right. If you do it.
You can. I just think a lot more people than are upset now about it are going to be upset. And then there are enough people right now that are upset about it.
That might be right. I might be upset. But saying it.
Right.
I don't know.
Right, I know. It multiplies exponentially, I think, when it happens. So, again, great problem to have. Let's all collectively have the problem. Really, I mean that. We all need it. We want it, but I think it changes. That's what I've always said that about the Red Sox, and it's not just my personal experience because I'm not there in Boston. I'm not born and bred. So I'm not as tethered to it as I am to the Bills. But there's the piece that I always think about is the radio station in Boston and how hard a time they had after they won, because you're losing. There's something in the water when you haven't won it yet, and you're torturing people, and you just keep coming back because you want to express how frustrated you are on a regular basis. It's therapeutic, but once that is quenched, it's like. It's like the John Travolta Pulp Fiction meme where he walks in the room like I don't know
what is actually happening in the scene.
I don't know. He's at the Uma Thurman's house and she's maybe dying or shooting up in the bathroom or something, and he's looking around. You don't know the meme I'm talking about?
No, I've never seen the movie.
Okay, well, it's just one of those things that just says circulated. Why you probably have laid eyes on it 100 times and just don't even know what it is.
The point of it is like, where is everybody?
Yeah, what? I thought something was supposed to happen here, and nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm. I get it. All right. Paul Hamilton coming up at 6. We'll talk about the Amherst, who have a chance to sweep their playoff series with Syracuse tonight. Road game coming up probably at 7. We'll talk to Paul here shortly, 6 o'clock. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog with you. This is WGR. Hamilton joins us at 6. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Derby Day is Saturday. Odds on, according to Bet Online, a horse with one name winning 1-5. 5-1 is your 100 wins 500. 1-5 is your 100 wins, 20? So apparently it's very likely that the winner of this race will be a horse that has only a one-word name.
Well, it's not going to be Rodriguez.
Right.
Because trainer Bob Baffert has scratched Rodriguez from Saturday's Kentucky Derby. I just noticed from our friend.
No, wait. Rodriguez is the name of a horse that was scratched. There's a jockey named Rodriguez, I believe. They've replaced with a different jockey.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I think that's the case.
Okay. The plot. I just
What's
saw
the name of the horse?
I don't know.
Okay.
All I've got here is it's a quote tweet from our buddy Sam Panayotovich from the Kentucky Derby itself. It says trainer Bob Baffert has scratched Rodriguez from Saturday's Kentucky Derby. With the defection of Rodriguez, Baeza has now drawn into the field. And I assumed that those were horse names, not jockey names.
I guess I don't know.
The picture is of...
Maybe that's right. Maybe you're right.
The picture is of a
horse?
A jockey riding a horse. So
could be either then.
Could be either. But, sorry, I was ready to go with you on one named horse being... Although
I think you're probably right.
A one named horse is now coming in. Yeah, I don't think Baffert... Well, I guess whatever. The trainer could scratch the jockey, I suppose. Change jockeys. But I think this is a horse.
I think you're probably right.
So make sure you talk to Sam about that tomorrow.
Other one-word horses, one-word name horses in the field include journalism and publisher.
That's interesting. Do they have the same? Are they from the same stables or something? Because those are
I don't know.
Those are curiously named.
Journalism and publisher.
Those sound like companion.
Sounds like an exacta waiting to happen right there.
Sound like companion horses to me.
1-5, one namer to win. I think I'll pass on that.
Me too. I'm going to miss the whole thing this year.
Render Judgment. How do you like that name?
I would bet. I would throw $5 on Render Judgment. Depends what the rest of the field looks like. And, of course, what the odds the other horses are like. But I usually look for a name I like, and then if the odds are matching, then that's where I'll go.
In that 5 to 10 to 1 range?
Yeah.
Something like that. Although 5 to 1 could be a favorite.
Yeah.
Maybe a little higher than that.
Somewhere between 10 and 20.
10 and 20.
I think it's that, yeah.
That could be a big payout at the Kentucky Derby.
Sure. Well, because I don't just throw nickels around when I'm betting on horse racing.
No, of course I know that. Nickels. Of course I know that. NHL playoffs tonight, 4 games, beginning with Toronto at Ottawa at 7. AHL playoffs, Amherst and Syracuse. We'll talk to Paul about all of it when we return. Paul Hamilton next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Busy night of playoff action. We've got 4 games in the NHL. Toronto, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton can all advance with a win tonight. At 7, Ottawa hosts the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7:30 sees Las Vegas in Minnesota versus the Wild. Dallas is in Colorado versus the Avalanche at 9:30. And then the night will wrap up at 10 with the Kings in Edmonton to take on the Oilers. We also have playoff action in the AHL. The Rochester Americans in Syracuse tonight and looking to close out their series as they take on the Crunch at 7. Paul Hamilton has more on this series up at our website, WGR550.com. And do stay tuned as Paul will join the show next. Lighter night for the NBA, just 2 games. The Knicks and the Nuggets can advance with a win. New York on the road versus the Pistons at 7:30. Then at 10, the Clippers host the Nuggets. The Buffalo Bandits take on the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL semifinal this Friday. That's tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. at KeyBank Center. Pre-game on WGR will begin at 7 p.m., and the first 10,000 fans will receive a playoff rally towel. Get your tickets now at bandits.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Very nice. We've got an opportunity here to talk to Paul. Not that we ever need one, but with the Amerks in Syracuse for Game 3 of their playoff series. Best of 5?
Yes.
Hoping for a 3-game sweep. Let's find out what's going on there. Paul Hamilton joins us on the West Her hotline. Paul, are you in Syracuse?
I am not, no.
Okay.
I was a couple years ago when Game 5 was in Syracuse, and that was the year Rochester went to the conference finals, and they actually won that game in overtime, so I was very happy I was there. It was a great game.
What is happening so far in this series? I saw a Levi shutout and another game where the Amerks came from behind to win.
It's been very interesting. Syracuse scored twice in Game 1 to open the scoring and haven't scored since. Rochester scored 7 straight goals, coming back to win that game 3-2 and then winning the next game 4-0. So, they just need to get a little bit out of their system right in the beginning. And once that happened, and it's not just Levi slamming the door. It was a 35-save shutout, but honestly, he could see every shot. And you can just see the way he's moving now. He's the type of goalie, and I know we've talked about this even when he was in Buffalo. He can get herky-jerky and be all over the place. He's not right now. He's very under control. He, even if he can't see a shot, he's not panicking. He's not all over the ice. He's, moving from side to side with the flow of the play nicely. And the Amerks are playing very well in front of him where he can see the shots. It's very few shots that are screened. And even like the second period in the shutout the other day, Rochester didn't have a real great second period. They gave up, 15, 16 shots, something like that. Their puck management wasn't very good in that middle frame. But still, even with that being said, they're good enough defensively that when they make a mistake like that, they can get back and they help each other out. And I've really been impressed with their defensive effort that they've played. And I don't want to say it's been easy on Levi because 35 saves isn't easy.
Right.
But just the types of chances that are coming at him, very, very few are screened or 3-on-1s or anything like that.
Not a lot of high danger chances, maybe it sounds like, right? So, good. How much more equipped do you think this team is now? You referenced 2 years ago when you were in Syracuse when they won that Game 5 to advance. I feel like when they ran into Hershey, if I have that right, that year, Hershey was like, it was all guys with beards, and the Amerks were, all guys who, aren't shaving yet. I'm exaggerating, maybe only a little. How do you think this Amerk team is more equipped to handle that if it comes? I mean, I don't know what lies waiting for them if they get past this Syracuse team here. I'm just curious if you think they might be more equipped to handle it if it gets, more rugged like it did against Hershey that year, 2 years ago.
Beck Mallenstein was on that Hershey team. We had a conversation. There was a hit in that series, which was, to me, unbelievable. Hershey was that big, Goonie team, and they put a hit. Their captain put a hit on Roseanne at center ice. And Mallenstein remembers it very, very well. As the helmet came flying off, and it wound up in like the 6th row of the stands. And Roseanne got right up. He didn't lay on the ice. It was like, honestly, I was expecting him to leave on a stretcher. That's how hard he got hit. And he got right up. And Mallenstein said everybody on the Hershey bench is like, you're kidding. He actually just getting up. And they were pretty impressed by that. And you know what? They're facing a team right now that is very big, very dirty. They really make the Broad Street Bullies look like choir boys. I mean, this is a group that will hit you from behind. They will put you head first into the wall. They will punch you in the back of the head when you're not looking. They are big. It's the gooniest team I've seen in a long, long time. And I'll tell you what, the Emmerichs are up for it. I mean, they're not backing down, so to speak. Their kid Russian defenseman stood up to one of the biggest Syracuse guys, got in a wild fight. I mean, they were going back and forth, punching both ways, but then the kid got caught.
Yeah.
And he took an uppercut and wound up on the ice. I don't know if he was unconscious, but if he wasn't, he was pretty close.
That was pretty scary. I saw footage of that, and that's one of those cringe. It's one of those moments where you're, a fight. I remember liking.
Yeah.
Like,
even the Syracuse player stood over him, Finley, to make sure he was okay.
Yeah.
Because he just knew he had tagged him. But as Komarov, who's in his first year as a pro, he's a big guy too. And until that punch hit, he accounted for himself very well. I mean, he didn't hesitate at all to stand there and go, and it was a very fair fight. That there was nothing dirty about that fight. There's a lot of dirty things that go on in the game when Syracuse is playing, but that wasn't one of them. But he and the other Russian kid, Novikov, have played very, very well, and I remember liking Novikov last year. He's in his second year, and they're guys that aren't quite ready for Buffalo now, but I think are going to be good NHL players. And they're big. Novikov doesn't play quite as rambunctious maybe as Komarov does, but I almost put them ahead of Johnson. Not that I think Ryan Johnson is awful by any means. He is who he is. I'm not sure he's going to be an NHL player. He's right on that line. I'm pretty sure he's not going to play like a first-round draft pick would. But I almost put those two Russian kids maybe ahead in the game as guys that maybe could make an impact in the NHL. As I said, maybe not next year, but fairly soon.
I'm going to provide this as a service to anyone else in our audience who, when Paul said this Syracuse team is really dirty, your mind tripped to Paul Newman in Reg Dunlop and Slapshot. I am personally placing a $100 bounty on the head of Tim McCracken. He's the head coach and chief punk on that Syracuse team. The radio announcer says, a bounty? Yep, $100 of my own money for the first of my guys that really nails that creep. I'm here for you, folks.
That was right out there.
That's a good one.
I had to look it up. I didn't have it. I read it, but I was able to do that while you were talking.
But you know what? They're fine with it. As I said, they've scored 7 consecutive goals. It's like, okay, you guys sit in the penalty box.
Yeah.
You guys. We know we're going to go head first into the wall. That's fine. We'll make a play right before you do it. And even Kulik, I didn't see game 1. He didn't get on the score sheet. But game 2, I couldn't have been more impressed. And the first note I wrote down about him wasn't offensively. It's like took his check right back to the crease and helped create a scoring chance. Had he let his man go, he would have been wide open for a pass. But he took him right back to the crease. And I thought, that's right there. Is what they've been trying to teach Kulik for the last couple of years since he's been around in North America. And that's what Lindy Ruff has talked about, how much he's improved. That was the first note I wrote about him. It was a defensive note. And then he blocks a shot, can't even put any weight on his foot going to the bench. They basically have to push him there. He won't leave the bench. They want him to go. He won't. And he just, kept trying to work it out. There was a break-in play. He tries to skate it off, can't. And then basically kind of stumbles back into the bench. But he stayed long enough that he could kind of walk it off or whatever, and then got on the ice and got a goal and an assist and was a big difference maker in that game. I mean, he just refused to leave that game.
How high are your hopes for him here next year? What is his role? What is his ceiling for you?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if he and Norris are your top two centers and they leave Thompson on the wing. Lindy Ruff talked about that, and I see this coming where you can always put Thompson back in the middle, even in the middle of a game. If things aren't working out or whatever, you can always make that change and put him back in the middle. And there was so much improvement. And the difference between Kulich and some of these other young players who just don't seem to be getting it is Kulich spent over 100 games in the American Hockey League. I think he was brought along the right way. They never rushed him up here. And, then he gets up here. He's had the experience in the American Hockey League, and you could see him apply it. And then you could see when he finally was put at center by Lindy Ruff, how it kind of all clicked in for him. And now he is a pretty good two-way player. And Lindy talked about how he could put him out against the other team's best lines. And he wasn't embarrassing himself. He was doing an okay job, with the back checking and getting back with them. And because, he was brought along the right way. Cousins never played a game in the American Hockey League. Peterka and Quinn hardly played any. Samuelson hardly played any. And everybody was just rushed up here. And it's been a disaster for them for the most part. Peterka's been okay, although, he's had to learn the two-way game. I think this year was better than last. I still don't think he's there yet. But you could see improvement in his defensive game this year. And, of course, his offensive game, he's got 55 goals in the last 2 years. Can't sneeze at that. But, Levi was another one. He was just lost. And then finally, for the last year and a half, I think they've done a good job with letting him go down there and learn his trade, and we'll see how that carries over into the NHL next year. But, he's started the playoffs off fantastic. As I said, gave up 2 early goals and hasn't given up another one since. And, is really playing well. He's an all-star down in Rochester, but I think they finally maybe learned their lesson and are doing the right things with him also.
This leaving Thompson on the wing thing is probably a few things going on, or at least a couple anyway. A, you've got guys who can play center that you can rely on. Norris, if he's healthy, is a really solid 200-foot player.
Yeah, he is.
So, I have no concerns there. But again, he's got to be healthy for this to come off. And you can count on Kulich there, because I feel like Paul, going all the way back to early in the season, I remember a pregame interview, a game I was going to, so I was listening in my truck, not here hosting the show with you and Mike, and Ruff was talking about Cousins and Thompson and the difficulty both were having with the defensive roles in his system. And I feel like at this point, with Ruff, assuming he's their head coach, and I have no reason to think otherwise at this point, that he might be done with Thompson at center. I think he just doesn't trust that he can do what he needs done on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think part of it is the growth of Kulich. I think he was that was probably when he was at the point of the season, all right, we got to do something here. And Kulich is a centerman playing wing, and that wasn't going real well. So I think Lindy Ruff was to the point, why not? What do we have to lose? Let's put Kulich at center and Thompson on the wing and see what happens. And it worked right away, especially for Thompson. His production did not fall off in the least.
Right.
He seems okay with it. When you talk to him about it, you just look at him or listen closely to him. It's not like he's just doing player speak. He seems fine. It's like, if that's where they want me to play, fine, I'll play there, because his production has been just as good on the wing as it was at center. But Kulich is much better at center than he is on the wing, so I think that matters also.
I'd have to really think about what the Team USA depth chart looks like down the middle, but playing wing for Thompson might give him a better chance of making the Olympic team too.
Yeah,
off the top of my head, Eichel and Austin Matthews, so if from there you're looking for more defensive-minded role-type players, then that takes Thompson off the table. So maybe wing is his ticket to trying to make that team.
And for people who are curious, that gets going in 8 days. because you'll be able to watch all of Team USA's games on the USA Network.
Oh, the World Championships, right.
Yeah, the World Championship. So for Team USA, and he was quite frank about it that he went to play. He's going to play with Team USA so they can get a look at him, and he hopes he earns a spot on the Olympic team by going to the World Championship. And Tuck would have gone but he and his wife are having their second child, and that's, if it hasn't happened already, it sounded like it's very close. So he felt, of course, that he needed to be home for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd be over there. Really, the only one, because Peterka and Byram don't have contracts, so they're not going to be in it. Luukkonen told me no. I wonder if he was even invited. He was the third goalie
Four Nations.
for the Four Nations. Yeah. And the only other one was Dahlin, and I could kind of understand if Dahlin doesn't want to go. I mean, he wasn't used very well at all in the Four Nations.
Right.
He was basically now he played with Forsling, and I thought that was good.
Yeah.
I thought they were a good pair. I thought Dahlin played very well in the Four Nations, but yet they'd get to overtime.
They deferred to Carlson because of experience, I think, is what probably
and Carlson
happened there.
cost him 2 goals.
Yeah.
One definitely was all his fault. The other one he was on the ice for. I don't know if I could blame him for it. And he played like less than 30 seconds in the 2 games he was on the ice before the other team scored in overtime. He played in 2 overtimes in less than 30 total seconds and was on the ice for 2 goals against. And Dahlin never saw the ice. So I could see where Rasmus Dahlin maybe as a little upset with the coach of Team Sweden, and maybe that's why when I asked him, he's like, "Oh, I don't know." He just seemed very non-committal of the thing. I haven't seen one way or the other. I don't think Sweden has released their roster. He would probably be the only other one that could be over there because of no contracts, and as I said, Alex Tuck not going.
Well, you'd have to think he'd have a bigger well, I mean, Carlson's not in the playoffs, but a lot of guys are. Like Tampa just got eliminated. I don't know if Hedman's going to want to go right to that from this, right? Forsling is still playing with Florida, so like he probably would have a more prime role if he did go for the World Championships. It's a tier down from that Four Nations and certainly the Olympics. Do you know, Paul, that we won't be able to find out in 8 days when they really ramp up? Is Thompson going with Team USA to play wing or center, or don't we know?
He didn't say. He might not even know.
Right.
Because they're just getting to training camp now. If today wasn't the first day of training camp, tomorrow is. And they are going to get a preseason game in there. So he may not even know until he gets over there and starts practicing exactly what their thought process is and where they want him to play and who they want him to play with.
Rochester at Syracuse tonight, Game 3 in the best of 5. Rochester leads the series 2-0. The winner of the series will face the winner of Laval-Cleveland, best of 5, and Laval is up 1-0, having won last night to open that series. They keep AHL playoffs. They keep it all in the division. It's like the old Adams,
Yeah,
It's
and it's very spread out because, and I understand totally, they don't want Tuesday games. I mean, they want Friday, Saturday, Sunday games for attendance and that type of thing.
Yep.
Rochester didn't sell out either one of the first 2, and they had, weekend games. So Thursday, that's not Friday, but at least it's not Tuesday. So Syracuse gets Thursday, Saturday, and then if there's a Game 5, it won't come off until the next Friday in Rochester.
Oh, wow.
So that's why it's all spread out like that, just because they want to, as best they can, get games more towards the weekend or on the weekend. And Laval is the team, by the way, that Rochester fought all year to be in first place. Laval finally wound up in first place by X amount of points. It wasn't by much, maybe 5-4, something like that. So that would be a good series if Laval and Rochester were to tangle.
Right, that's Montreal's team. Who is Cleveland's?
Oh, I don't know.
I do know.
Columbus?
I think that's right.
Thank you.
Yes,
that's
right. Good job,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Yes, that is right.
Baby. Who are the Colorado Eagles? Avs? That's a new one for me. Colorado Eagles.
Because that's where Landeskog went when he was doing conditioning before he came back. So that is right.
Look at us.
Any thoughts on the playoffs, Paul, so far? Like Toronto's got to be feeling it here a little bit. Maybe they're fans more than the players even, but I would guess some guys might be a little tense even though they don't want to let on.
Oh, I'm sure they're very tense. Especially with Game 6 now in Ottawa, so that I'm sure they're pretty squirrely right now after with what has happened over the years. Tampa Bay surprised me because Tampa Bay looked like they were going to make this series 2-2, and then in like less than a minute with 3 minutes left, all of a sudden they go from 1 goal up to 1 goal down. And I think, at least in my mind, that I knew right then and there that's
knockout punch. Yeah,
you're going to try in your next game, but you probably aren't going to.
There was a moment last night. I don't know how closely you watched Tampa and Florida last night, but there was, I think, in the second period, they were trading goals.
Yep.
There was Bobrovsky made a save on someone in all alone, and the rebound came right out to another Tampa player, and he just I think almost from the splits managed to like make himself big enough, sit up enough to make the save on the rebound, and I just felt like, oh man, like good luck to you, Tampa.
So that being a 5-game series is surprising to me. I don't know if you guys how much you saw Washington. I just screamed out Thomas Vanek when I saw the Caps come in early in the game and set up Van Riemsdyk down the slot, and he wound it up and just ripped a slap shot, basically on a breakaway, like Thomas Vanek used to do. But there was one difference. Thomas Vanek usually would score. Van Riemsdyk missed the net.
Yeah.
But it's not very often you see some guy coming in alone and just wind it up and take a slap shot. And Vanek was the first thing that came to mind.
I love that you mentioned that. That always looked impossible. In shootouts, he would do it. I mean, he had other moves.
Right.
But in a shootout, he would go right down the middle and just rip it right over your shoulder.
Right from the hash.
And then he had that little around the world move where he'd come down and put his stick above the puck and go around the world a couple of times over the top of the puck. So the goalie didn't know, is he going to take it in the backhand, forehand, what's he going to do? And that was a great move for him, too.
He beat Hasek with Ottawa when the Sabres were really coming there in early 06. Paul, before you go.
Yes.
I'm guessing you do know this. Aaron Judge is hitting .427 while leading the American League, if not the majors, in home runs and RBIs. 1282 OPS, which, it's a long way to go. It's not full season yet, but that would be that's Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth territory.
I'm sure it's not going to happen, but I would love to see him hit 400. That would be awesome. Just to see it happen.
Yeah. That's one we haven't had yet. We've had 70 homers. We've had, a lot of, we have Ohtani, but 50-50.
Right.
But then we're going to have the debate about the bats, whatever they're calling those
torpedo bats.
Torpedo bats. I don't know.
I don't think it's worth worrying about.
Yeah,
I don't think it is either, but it's so talked about. Well, the Yankees are doing great because they're using torpedo bats, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
They're not. No one else is forbidden from using torpedo bats.
I was going to say, are
right?
the torpedo bats? Are they the only team that are allowed to use them? I'm trying to.
I'm going to guess
figure
no.
This out.
Yeah.
No, it's calmed down a little bit, like their production. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Take care, guys.
There's Paul Hamilton on our West Her hotline. His appearances on WGR are brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your futures about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
As a team, they hit .267. And Judge does not use a torpedo bat. At least that's the last I heard. When that started, beginning of the season, they had that series against Milwaukee, and they were all hitting crazy home runs, and then we started talking about torpedo bats, but Judge doesn't use one. So there you go. For whatever reason. Stanton, now I'm remembering all this. Stanton did. He was hurt. Stanton did.
Stanton's hurt?
Yeah. He did, and
so
last year.
He's so terrible.
But he was great in the postseason last year, and he was injured, and there was some speculation that the bat had something to do with it, but I don't know where that stands. It's just I'm remembering a conversation from almost a month ago now. I'm sure a lot has changed in a month.
Probably.
Earlier today, Mike Giardi. Here's a guy who doesn't change. He always comes on and is great. Boston Sports Journal, mostly on the Patriots, a little bit on the Bills and the AFC East. Oh, and of course up top, Belichick and his girlfriend and all that drama. That's coming your way next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.